Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1318 of the War News stream. And today we have very big news that U.S. forces have struck another Venezuelan vessel today and absolutely nuked it out of the water. We've also seen that the U.S. military has deployed 6 rare nuclear planes over America today again, which is obviously a little bit odd. And also, drones are now invading Czech and German airspace today, and we have all those reports and more, and it's good to see you all once again.
And, of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we have been able to confirm today, according to statements by the United States of America and unclassified footage published by the Department of Defense, that the United States Armed Forces within the U.S. Southcom area of responsibility have conducted another strike against a Venezuelan vessel off of the coast of Venezuela. At the same time, the U.S. Southcom Command also published footage of further actions and preparations being conducted by U.S. forces within the area for eventual actions against the nation of Venezuela and the cartels in the region at large. We have also seen for the second day in a row an incredibly odd and very rare occurrence, which is the deployment of 6 E-6B Mercuries over the skies of the United States of America. The E-6B Mercuries are generally known for their operational abilities, at least within the United States Navy, to be airborne command posts and communication relays, but also serve as doomsday planes for nuclear-capable forces, especially those that are inside the United States Navy on board ballistic missile submarines. For this reason, we have actually included that in the title tonight as an incredibly odd and unusual occurrence, considering the sheer number of them airborne, 6 of them once again today, and also the fact that this has been going on non-stop over about the past 72 hours. Not only that, we have been able to hear that the United States President will be attending in the next few days what can only be described as a Fleet Week to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States Navy at Norfolk. This is actually something I've been wondering was going to happen for a while, and it actually does appear that it will be happening, which is quite interesting. shipping. Outside of that, we have also been able to hear in Europe that multiple drone incursions have been spotted throughout the entirety of Central Europe, ranging from Prague to Belgium and Munich. Multiple authorities and officials have been spotting and tracking these drones while they've been inside of the airspace of these NATO nations and trying to make sure that they were not conducting any sort of severe actions. The Danish forces have actually published some very concerning information today that the Russian Navy has actually been aiming weapons and openly threatening to fire upon Danish forces that are operating within Danish territorial waters and have been for the past several weeks. That report, a bombshell one, just came out today and is letting us know of all of the prior incidents in summary that have been happening to the Danish armed forces over the past few weeks. We've also heard that inside the Russian Federation, Ukrainian forces were able to land an absolutely unbelievable strike. Once again, another long-range strike into the Russian Federation, hitting the town of Orsk within Orenburg, which is almost inside of Asia. As a matter of fact, I believe that Orsk technically is inside of Asia, or the Russian part of Asia for that matter. We have also seen the Ukrainian armed forces have been inflicting significant casualties onto the Russian Federation's armed forces over the day, while the Russian Federation has now finally admitted their casualties, at least in some sort of a lighter sense, stating that they have taken 135,000 killed over the course of the 3 years, averaging out to about 30,000 dead per year on their minimal estimate, with many others stating that the number of dead is most likely closer to 350 to 420,000. While that's been going on, we have also been able to see that the Russians are continuing to fly flights into the Islamic Republic of Iran, most likely attempting to supply them, while at the moment there appears to be a sign of optimism, at least in the Hamas-Israel conflict, as the President of the United States has announced that there is apparently some sort of a deal that Hamas has agreed to release all of the hostages that are left remaining, dead or alive, and to also allow for the eventual withdrawal of all Israeli forces from the Gaza Strip. We have also seen that the People's Republic of China is continuing low-level coercion efforts against the Republic of China over the course of the day, with the China Coast Guard vessel being spotted near to the area of the smaller Pratas Islands, a holding of the Republic of China, and also the Fujian-class carrier strike group currently around the area of the island of Hainan. We will be covering all of this news over the course of this entire stream, starting with our largest pieces of news and then working our way on down into the smaller stories throughout the course of the night. Of course, I'm sure many of y'all can already tell by the news summary we have right now, today is another day that is not short of major news stories. There are actually a lot of them that are coming out at the moment, and we are going to be making sure to get through all of the major ones that we can as quickly as possible to make sure to get y'all what has been going on in the past 24 hours as succinctly as we can for the larger part. So moving us on directly into our most major piece of news and our largest development that we have been able to hear out of the day, we are going to be going to the area of North and South America, and specifically directly off the coast of Venezuela, as we have been able to hear, according to the United States of America, that another armed strike has been conducted by U.S. forces against another Venezuelan vessel off of the coast of the country. This was seen today on unclassed footage published by U.S. Southcom showing the strike on board another alleged narco vessel. Unlike other narco vessels, unfortunately, we didn't get a high enough definition video or picture of the vessel to be able to confirm exactly where the alleged narcotics were being carried on board the vessel. Nevertheless, we were able to see the strike, which was claimed by U.S. Southcom to have killed 4 members of the crew, practically the entirety of the complement of the vessel, and also completely destroy the vessel along with any drugs or contraband that was being carried on board, according to U.S. Southcom forces. We can see here the video of the narco boat traveling at a pretty high rate of speed through the area and then immediately being hit, not by a Hellfire, it appears this time some sort of a GBU of some sort, a laser-guided JDAM. The explosion was incredibly large, pretty much projecting out shrapnel from the vessel and also from the bomb immediately, as y'all can see right there. This is something that isn't indicative of a Predator strike with, say, AGM-114 Hellfire. This appears to be some sort of a strike with a larger bomb, possibly a 250 or 500-pound JDAM that hit directly center or amidships of the boat. It does appear that the boat was pretty much vaporized nearly immediately, with some of the smaller remains of the burning vessel continuing on for a short while, obscured in the smoke, and then sitting adrift as a burning mass, the crew already dead from the initial explosion.
Honestly, it would seem like a little bit of overkill to me because that was a very small boat. It was not very large. It seems like these are symbolic strikes. Like they're trying to send a message with these by using these large munitions to take these boats out. It's basically a show of force combined with actually taking out these alleged drug boats. So it seems like it's sending a message.
I would have to say it certainly does seem like it's sending a message. Once again, to show y'all right there, this was a fairly large ordnance that was used. Something that's also a little bit interesting, if y'all note right here, it actually appears based off of the plume of the explosion that the bomb actually exploded right after it entered the hull. A little bit of the explosion apparently happened underwater, at least from the bomb, letting us know that its explosives charge was most likely halfway through the deck by the time it exploded, meaning that this thing was fused to detonate on impact and not any sort of a airburst or anything similar. Because if you notice right here, the initial explosion right there is somewhat smaller, but right afterwards you'll notice what can be described as a water column jutting up from the sea, which would let us know that there was some sort of an explosion that also happened simultaneously with the above water explosion or the sea level explosion a little bit underwater, which we can see right there. You can actually see the water spurting up in that grayish sort of a pattern there, and then immediately resting back down to the sea. You can also see the swell that was caused and the foam that was created because of that as well. So it does appear that the strike was most likely from a JDAM, and once again, we've seen at least 2 of these strikes prior that were confirmed to be conducted with some form of an AGM-114 Hellfire, and all of those explosions were fairly small in size and didn't cause this kind of major damage, at least the shrapnel pattern inside of the water, or for that matter, a pretty much a swell or a water column to emerge from after the explosion. This is the first time that we've confirmed the U.S. Southcom forces have used some sort of a larger ordnance against a vessel, and of course, like Enforcer Matt is saying, it most likely is another show of force against the Venezuelans, or this may be some form of an escalation, at least in our attacks against Venezuelan narco boats, to try and convey the idea that Venezuela better respond to these eventually and try and goad them into firing at U.S. forces or attempting to intercept and stop U.S. forces, which will allow the United States the diplomatic justification to state that the Venezuelan government, which is technically illegitimate, it fibbed the last election, and when the public started to erupt an outcry inside the country last year during that election, they actually brought in mercenary groups, including some remnants of the former Wagner PMC, to put down the public and to enforce the faulty election results that were created inside the country. That also would give us the reason, on top of them being an illegitimate government, to intervene and conduct military action in Venezuela if they do react against U.S. forces, because we could also claim that Venezuela is conducting armed action in support of illegal terrorist forces, with the cartels now being deemed terrorist forces. If Venezuela took any armed action to try and stop these attacks by the United States of America, that would most likely be the diplomatic path that we would be going for. A fairly interesting one at that, and it is starting to show us that, at least as far as the United States is going, we are still trying to find some way to make Venezuela respond to these attacks on these vessels that are originating from Venezuela and then traveling out into international waters. We are also understanding, by the way, folks, at least from what I could find, that this strike did occur inside of international waters. Outside of that,
Isn't it kind of interesting that we have so many like ships around the area? We have all kinds of Air Force assets in the area, and also we're flying very close to their airspace, at least according to recent reporting. It sounds like we're buzzing the Venezuelan airspace, not really going into it, but getting really close to it, and also sending out drones as well. So it's a weird circumstance. We've got like enough assets there to basically invade the country if the United States chose to do so, but at the same time, they're just sort of like sitting by the coast, sort of picking off boats here and there occasionally. So I wonder if we're seeing the full scope of the operations right now, because it seems like it's very, very light. Like picking off one little alleged cartel boat at a time seems like only a small fraction of the capabilities of the forces we have down there right now. So it makes me wonder what's really going on, because surely this is not the only operations that are currently underway.
I would have to say that it most likely is not the only operations that we have underway, or it may be. It may be, like I've been saying for a while, that they are conducting these strikes with a limited amount of our force present to goad the Venezuelans into firing at U.S. forces in the area, and then once they fire at us, we have the 100% justification at that point to say, aha, the Venezuelans are attacking us in support of the illegal cartels and the terrorist forces that are in this region, and for that reason, we can go to war against Venezuela. That might actually be what we're doing at the moment, because the amount of forces that are present here are so large that, according to many, and according to insiders in the government, the plan right now is to eventually land the 22nd View onshore in Venezuela and start taking ports ports and airports if possible within a small area and create a beachhead to be able to expand U.S. operations out of. If that is the case, these attacks are trying to force the Venezuelans into a response so that way we can then use some sort of a defensive justification or the justification that Venezuela is now conducting armed support in support of terrorist forces within the area. And I also see some people in the chat discussing some things, and this is of course the common one that's brought up, is that these actions against Venezuela are illegal. And to quickly once again go over this, because I think some people get lost in the weeds, this is not an illegal action that's being conducted by the United States. Conducting an action like this inside of Venezuela's territorial waters could generally be construed in an international legal framework to be illegal. Venezuela has the sovereign rights over their own territorial waters, not their exclusive economic zone, and so if we conducted a strike on a vessel like this within territorial waters, that could be some sort of a international law or maritime law violation. However, conducting strikes on these in international water, for one, is not illegal, and two, it is certainly not illegal because according to the United States, these forces in the cartel are now terrorist forces. If there is any sort of plausible or reasonable cause to believe that these forces are affiliated with some sort of a cartel inside of Venezuela or anywhere throughout South and Central America, they are deemed to be open targets. To explain in a short sense, terrorists in the modern day are provided as little protections as pirates of older historical eras were provided during their time. Terrorists do not get any protections under international law, and so we declare a cartel to be a terrorist force, and they are involved in their normal operations somewhere on the open sea, they can be stricken and hit. Making an argument that striking cartel forces, which have now been declared as terrorist forces, is illegal would be like saying that the United States conducting airstrikes against the Houthis is illegal because we didn't get approval from the official Yemeni government to conduct those strikes on their territory. It would be an incredibly difficult stretch, and not only that, it would be a very hard thing to argue that terrorists, for that matter, have any protections under international law, except for the fact that they are not summarily executed if captured, because they practically have no rights or any protections under international law for terrorist groups. So I just want to make that...
There is a little bit of a difference between the Houthi situation and the Venezuela situation. And also, by the way, folks, I want to clarify something real quick. We're simply talking about the legality of the strikes. We're not saying whether or not we agree with the strikes or not. Right now, we're simply talking about the legality of it. But the Houthi situation, though, the Houthi terrorists actually attacked U.S. assets. They attacked some of our ships, and therefore we responded to that kinetic attack by the Houthis. So I would say it's a little bit different because Venezuela has not attacked us in the traditional sense. The allegation by the U.S. administration is the Venezuelan government is facilitating narco-terrorism, and therefore they are poisoning the American public with drugs, and therefore that is essentially an attack on the United States. It's a little bit different. It's just more like an indirect attack on the United States than really a true direct kinetic attack. So I think that's why some people are saying that it's not legal. But the catch is, though, here's the thing, folks. I'm with the enforcer. It is technically, according to the letter of the law, it is legal. But the problem is, though, you can disagree with the actual decision making behind it. Like, for example, whatever the president's saying is the reason for doing it, you can disagree with that. But there's nothing on paper that says it's actually illegal. So some people call that a loophole. Some people call it unfair. But that is the way it works, though, nonetheless.
Also, I see some people saying that there's no evidence that's being provided, and I also have to say that there probably is a good reason for that. If we have evidence that these people are involved in illegal narcotics operations, I don't think y'all understand this, but if we started to state how that evidence was gathered to prove that ship was a narco-terrorist vessel, a lot of people's lives could be in danger from providing the public with the evidence. If y'all don't know, the cartel is practically the South or Central American version of the U.S. Mafia. And if y'all know anything about the U.S. Mafia and anyone who has ever been involved in trying to conduct intelligence or evidence-gathering operations for RICO cases or to bring down the Mafia, a lot of those people, even the FBI agents that go undercover to try and bust up the Mafia, end up having to go into witness protection because doing such a thing and then being found out that you were a part of building a case against the Mafia can get you and your family killed. And a very similar thing could definitely happen for anyone, informant or undercover agent, that is providing intelligence to the United States DEA, the FBI, or the CIA about the narcotics operations of these cartels in South and Central America. So for that reason, if we come out in the public and say that U.S. informant number 119 provided us with this specific information right here. Here's the picture evidence. That guy's cover is blown, and we can't get him out of there quickly. He could get killed in the middle of the streets tomorrow because some people want to hear the evidence. Or better yet, an undercover informant that we've ended up to flip inside the cartel that's telling us when these shipments are happening could also be in jeopardy of getting killed as well. If y'all don't remember, there was a movie made recently. It had Tom Cruise in it as a pilot that was smuggling drugs for the cartel and flipped and became an informant. And if y'all don't remember, the movie was based on a true story. The cartel ended up finding out that he was an informant because Ronald Reagan held up a picture of him to the entire world of him inside of his own plane as they were loading the drugs into it, and they ended up killing him later on. That's generally why you don't really hear a lot about the evidence or intelligence that's gathered on these narco-terrorist or cartel groups, because they have a habit of killing these people pretty quickly once they find out who they are. So just want to put that out there a little bit quickly. It's pretty much impossible to provide any sort of evidence or information on these groups to the public without it possibly putting informants or undercover agents' lives in jeopardy as a result of that. Because it wouldn't be hard after that to figure out who exactly was the undercover agent or the informant, because the evidence would almost spell it out exactly who it most likely was that was gathering the information. So that's why there's a little bit of a difficulty with that. But moving on from
Also, real quick, one last thing I want to say. Some people are saying you're not guilty until you're proven actually guilty, or you're innocent until proven guilty, basically. On a geopolitical level, it doesn't work like that. Like, it sounds great if it worked like that. I would agree that's the best way to do it. But on a geopolitical level, though, it does not. It's not the same thing as due process in a court in the United States. If two countries decide to go to war with one another, technically, whichever country is the strongest is going to do what they want to do. Just like, for example, Russia did it, and it's up to the allies of the country that's getting attacked to fight back. And if they can't fight back, well, then the bad guy's going to end up winning. So that's just the way it works in the real world on the global stage. There is no due process. Due process is basically at the barrel of a gun when it comes to countries fighting one another. That's kind of how it works.
And also, I have to add this as well, folks, because I don't know if a lot of people are understanding this about cartel groups. Cartel groups are not Weenie Hut Jr. folks who are just moving drugs around in boats. These people are incredibly dangerous. If y'all ever follow anything that goes on with cartels in South and Central America, there are thousands of cartel execution videos online of the cartel executing people that either stepped in the way or ended up informing on them or ratting on them or anything in between. A lot of these cartels are so powerful they pretty much operate as extra-governmental forces through the threat of force against the public or the government in a lot of these countries, and therefore they're not a little group that generally is just, oh, they're just moving some drugs around in a boat. These people are wildly dangerous, and I think some people are misunderstanding that. And on top of that, you can pretty much describe them, almost in a degree, as operating like a force like the Houthis or Hamas or Hezbollah inside the Middle East. I mean, they're incredibly well armed. I don't know if people have seen that sort of a deal online. Some cartels actually host their own armored personnel carriers and armored cars with machine guns on board, fully automatic machine guns. It's not like this is a small little group. They may be as well armed in theory as the Yemeni Houthis within southern Yemen. So it's not really like these groups are just harmless little groups moving around drugs like your corner store drug dealer here in the United States. These people are incredibly dangerous. And I would highly encourage people who might not know about that to research the cartels a great deal more, because they are cutthroat. They are incredibly dangerous. And while these members of the cartel may just be involved in smuggling these drugs, they still operate 100% to the letter as a terrorist force. Like, that's generally why they're being treated like this, and they're being given no quarter at sea, whether they're involved in any armed activities or not. So with that, I hope that gives my 2 cents on that the best I can, because while I would say that some people do have some issues with the actions that are being taken in near Venezuelan waters, at the same time, I think a lot of people are giving the cartel a little bit too much of an open berth to act like they're not as bad as they really are. But moving on from that and on into the eastern coast of Puerto Rico, we also were able to see some video footage published by U.S. Southcom about the operations that were conducted at least recently today. And let me see if this loads. I'm very sorry, everyone. The computers have been loading and operating a little bit slowly today. I have no clue why, but we do have the clip here. I'll have to mute the music. We do not have a license for it, but I can show the clip that was published by Southcom. So here it is. We can see them bringing the ordnance to the F-35s that are a part of the Marine attack squadron that is at Roosevelt Roads here in eastern Puerto Rico. But you see them loading the ordnance on board, and interestingly enough, folks, it is actually about a 500-pound JDAM. So if this was the F-35 that conducted the strike today, it actually did conduct the strike with a JDAM.
500 pounders. That's Israeli bombs right there, basically, isn't it?
Oh, no, these are actually quite small. Like, the Israelis use like 2,000-pound and 1,000-pound
Oh,
JDAMs.
okay.
We're using a smaller one, a 500-pound. These actually get down to 250 pounds at the smallest, but you can actually see right there it says 500 pounds right there on the side of the bomb. So this is a 500-pound JDAM. We can also see them loading up what appears to be an AIM-120 without the, yeah, it's actually an AIM-120C without the fins, most likely into the internal bays of the F-35. And it actually is going in the internal bays. And we also have an AIM-9 on an external pylon, and there goes the F-35 in a vertical takeoff configuration to allow for a shorter takeoff. But still, that was a little bit of the footage of the U.S. air actions that were conducted in the U.S. SOUTHCOM earlier today, and once again giving us a pretty decent look at least what the U.S. Marine Corps' aerial operations look like out of Roosevelt Roads. Still, it does appear that the situation is continuing to rise, with a large amount of forces within the area, and a lot of people are wondering what in the world is the true purpose of these strikes that are being conducted right off the coast of Venezuela. And Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right, so we did see today that another Venezuelan vessel alleged to be a drug boat was struck today with a massive munition, and it looks to me like a very symbolic statement. So what is the true purpose of these strikes? And it looks like 43%, the most popular option, said to end Venezuela narco-terrorism against the United States, while 27% said it's intimidation and softening operations against Venezuela, and 22% said it seems symbolic for politics reasons. And I would personally have to say that I believe personally, like I mentioned before, there are so many countries around the same area as Venezuela that are engaging in narco-terrorism that to hone in on Venezuela seems a little bit strange. So I'm going to say it seems more like intimidation and softening operations. This is designed to send a message to Maduro to let him know, here is the might of the U.S. military. If we can take this boat out like this, imagine what we can do to the Venezuelan coast if they wanted to invade. I think that's the purpose of it. It's basically to send a message. It's not really about ending narco-terrorism, because you really can't end it by striking one boat, or actually a handful of boats. That's not going to bring an end to it. It may temporarily scare the narco-terrorists, but it's not going to send them away, because that's their whole livelihood, is selling these narcotics. So I would say generally I'm with the 27%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would be with the 27% as well. I would believe that this is intimidation and softening operations, more so than trying to end any actions by the cartel. Just to put this out there, the cartel isn't just operating in Venezuela. It's operating in Mexico, all of the Central American states, Colombia, Peru, so on and so forth. Dealing with the cartel in Venezuela is just shutting down one corner store of the cartel. There are dozens of others in every single country within this area, and that is a totally different fish to fry to try and actually deal with the cartel. This seems to be trying to goad the Venezuelans into some sort of a response, so that way we can create the diplomatic justification to state that because the Venezuelans fired at U.S. forces that were conducting legal operations against terrorist forces operating out of Venezuela, this clearly shows that Venezuela is in armed support of illegal terrorist forces, and for that reason, we will be going to war with Venezuela because they're impeding in our activities within this area. That will most likely be the diplomatic justification that is given. Some people may not believe that now. Don't worry, it'll come around to pass that that'll end up happening. But beyond that, that would be what I would believe to be the case. I would just have to be honest with y'all folks, this is going to do really nothing to actually deal with the cartel. This is the public presentation, the public packaging, the wrapping, in a sense, that's being given for what we're doing down here. But this has a whole different other level of things that are going on below the surface that we've already talked about a lot on this channel, and that's primarily dealing with growing Chinese influence within South and Central America. I mean, if you really look at what we've been doing in this area, it hasn't been against the cartels, it's been more so against the Chinese. When we threatened to retake the Panama Canal Zone, that wasn't because of the cartels, that was because of the Chinese. Whenever we have said anything about Mexico, it wasn't really primarily about the cartels, it was more so about the Chinese, and half so about the cartels operating near to the border zones. When you look down in South America, the Chinese are growing their influence inside of Venezuela to try and set up oil drilling platforms within Lake Maracaibo. And we are now picking a fight and going out of our way to do so with Venezuela, which is also having significant Chinese influence inside the country. That cannot be a coincidence. This has to be a clear evidence of a pattern that the U.S. is trying to curb growing Chinese influence within this area. And I would also say that from the historical records and precedents that we would have, at least within South and Central America, this is nothing new at all. The U.S. has been involved in South and Central America trying to curb Soviet influence throughout the entirety of the Cold War. That's actually why the cartels exist today, is that we actually funded the Contras through Noriega to go up against the forces of the revolutionaries and the communists that were being supported by the Soviet Union within Central America. And then they ended up evolving into the cartels, at least the highly organized cartels that we see today. This such thing is not new historically, and while some people may be questioning it a little bit here and there, I would have to generally say that I would be with the 27%. This certainly is to curb Chinese influence, but going up against the cartels is our international or public justification for the actions that we're conducting right now within the area.
And also, by the way, y'all might recall as well, I believe the U.S. president made a statement, I think it was about a week ago. I think he said something along the lines of, if Maduro takes back these mental victims or insane asylum victims or whatever that came allegedly from Venezuela to the United States, then there would be maybe some type of favoritism or some type of goodwill gesture by the Maduro regime if they took those people back. I haven't heard any response that I've heard of from Maduro about taking anyone back that have allegedly come from Venezuela from an insane asylum. So it sounds like they've shut off talking pretty much, at least for right now. That's what we're seeing. So Maduro is sitting down there. He's bringing out his really lame military to do exercises on a regular basis, while the U.S. just keeps piling up assets on his coast. So it seems like there's no way to go here except for escalation, because the U.S. clearly has some plan in mind. They're not just showing up to sit on the coast and just eat Twinkies or something. They're showing up to do business here in a couple of weeks. So honestly, I'm hopefully this doesn't happen during the time we're off air, because it looks like it's actually going to line up exactly with the time that we're off air, probably in a couple of weeks, that something is going to happen in Venezuela. So I don't really see Maduro working this thing out. It sounds like he is being extremely defiant against the United States, and he's really not trying to be very diplomatic. I think the closest he came to being diplomatic was when he sent a message to Trump saying that he wanted to work with him, or he thought he was a good guy or something like that. But that's pretty much been it. He hasn't really made any real gestures as a goodwill gesture to bring this invasion farther away from happening. So seems like it's getting there.
Also, really quickly, because I do see some people continuing to talk about the legalities of this, or more so whether the cartel should even be designated as a terrorist force. And let me explain a little bit more. I touched on this a while ago, but let me explain a little bit more in a way that'll make this a little bit more clear. The cartels generally existed as an extra-governmental crime syndicate, at least in its original form. It was kind of started by us, really, generally because of our funding of the Contras, but they would eventually span out to create the modern cartels of today, and also the super cartels that we're seeing currently. These cartels generally dealt to raise their money to be able to make themselves cash, make themselves wealthy, and also be able to build out further criminal enterprises off of drug smuggling to the United States. Countries like Colombia generally find that there is a large amount of cocaine producers and other forms of illegal narcotics that hide out in the jungles, produce the illegal substances there, and either by land or by sea transport the goods into the United States. These criminal outfits operate like any organized criminal outfit anywhere in the world, even like the mafia here in the United States. These groups will kill anyone that gets in their way. They are wildly dangerous. If you ever look at any stories of people who have run into the cartel, they never end up well. None of them do. Then, recently, we've started to see that something new has been introduced in a large amount of the drugs, mostly primarily coming from the Southern and Central American cartels, which is fentanyl. Many of y'all know about fentanyl. It's been a very public sort of a thing, but from what we generally know, fentanyl is usually found in some sort of opioids that appear to be originating from the People's Republic of China. The People's Republic of China seems to be either smuggling or directly shipping these synthetic opiates that are laced with fentanyl into the Southern and Central American cartels, and then they are shipping those across the border into the United States, once again, either by land or by sea. This has been causing a massive spike in fatalities in the United States from drug overdoses, as it takes practically a minuscule, almost a granule of fentanyl to end up putting someone into a lethal overdose. If y'all know about this as well, last year alone, there were around 76,000 fentanyl-related deaths in 2023 and about 48,000 in 2024. So it's actually a significant amount of casualties that are being caused, or fatalities more so, that are being caused because of this smuggling of synthetic opiates that are laced with fentanyl that appear to be originating from the People's Republic of China. So while people may be trying to say to some degree that the People's Republic, well, actually the cartels shouldn't be designated as terrorist organizations, let me ask you all this. What is worse, the October 7th massacre of 2023, which killed 1,700 Israelis, or the annual operations of the cartel that are killing dozens of thousands of Americans every single year from fentanyl-laced drugs, or drugs in general? I would have to say that if you look at them comparatively in terms of the amount of deaths, that is an incredibly large number. Like I Am Wheat then pointed out, that's the same amount of people who died from car crashes and car fatalities last year. And that is an incredibly large number. Not only that, these groups are almost extra governmental in a large part of these countries, almost operating as a government of their own. Most governments, like the Mexican government, the Colombian government, and many others, have an incredibly hard time dealing with these organizations because the kind of power that they hold in the streets, and not only that, across the whole country. These groups are incredibly dangerous, and I think that a lot of people are amiss on that because some people look at it more so as just this group of people who happen to be trafficking drugs, a lot like people do in the United States. But it is a totally different thing going on down there in South and Central America than a lot of people are thinking. So for one, I would say that the cartels definitely do deserve to be on the terrorist list organizations or statements by the United States. And two, as far as their actions are being conducted at sea and the responses that the United States are making, can you really say that it's a bad thing, even if that is not the real justification of what we're doing right now, but that is the public statement, considering the amount of people that the cartel kills in these countries alone and the amount of Americans that they're killing directly due to the fentanyl-laced drugs that they're getting from the People's Republic of China? It wouldn't really be that hard to say. On top of that, even more so, the People's Republic of China is supplying literal deadly poisons at this point, nearly, to the cartel to sell in American markets. The Chinese, through a direct sense, in that degree, are killing about 50 to 70,000 Americans a year. Wouldn't it, at that point, isn't this more so about curbing the Chinese ability to poison and kill off 50 to 70,000 Americans every single year through their operations with the cartel as well? I mean, there's a great deal of arguments here, even if you want to go with the cartel or fighting the cartel as our actual justification for what we're doing. There's plenty of arguments there to make this justified. It's even more justified when we're trying to curb Chinese influence in every regard, cartel or not.
Yeah, honestly, I would say personally that you don't really have to go invade other countries to stop the drug flow, in my personal opinion. I don't want to get political with this, but I got to kind of go a little bit close to it to sort of address the issue. Me personally, I think it'd be much more effective to deal with the whole drug situation flowing into America by simply securing the border better. And I'm not trying to get political with that, folks. Don't take that as a political statement. Just that's how drugs come in. They come in through the border. I assume they come through on aircraft and ships as well. So if they found better border protection measures for that, that would probably be a much better way to fix it, because there's a lot of countries that deal in narcotics illegally like this. Venezuela is not the only one. So if we're setting a precedent here with the narco-terrorism being an excuse to invade a country, then we're going to start invading basically the entire northern part of South America, basically, because they're all dealing in narcotics like that. So why wouldn't we take the easier approach, which is securing our borders, versus invading foreign countries to deal with the issue? It seems like it's a little bit overkill.
I would have to say that I would agree. For the larger part, generally just regulating the borders and also I would honestly say strengthening the Coast Guard and the border regulations on the land border would probably be the best way to curb this. But still, trying to curb Chinese influence, and if we're taking that direction on this, I can certainly see where this is going and why it would be going that way. I can see why they're doing it, but once again, folks, I still have to defeat all of that with this isn't really the right place or the right time. While there's a great deal of justifications from any angle for the actions that we're taking right now, and also there's really no argument that the actions are even illegal for that matter, I could certainly see where the U.S. administration is coming from at the moment. But we also have to balance our priorities. And if we are seeing that a war in Europe is coming, and a war with China over Taiwan is coming, and the Iranians are about to create a nuclear weapon, all of those happening at a far faster rate than anything with Venezuela is happening right now, I would still say this is not a good move to make at the moment, and our priorities do lie elsewhere in Europe, East Asia, and the Middle East, at least for now. And if we wanted to revisit this topic and actually push forward with this, we can do that at a later date. I just don't really think that we have our priorities straight. This is our last priority at the moment. While it's an unfortunate situation, even if we took the cartel into account, we can still deal with this about 7 years from now, and it'll almost be the same outcome as what we're seeing at the moment. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. But moving on into our next major piece of news, making sure to get back on track of covering all the news that we have been able to see another rare occurrence again today. This is the second time within 72 hours that such a thing has happened, and 6 E6 Mercuries are once again airborne. This is an incredibly odd occurrence. We have not seen E6 Mercuries airborne this often and in such a large number in such a short amount of time. Every single one of these aircraft that you're seeing on this flight radar here are all E6 Mercuries, and we can actually see two of them orbiting around the area of Sacramento and San Francisco. This is something that is very interesting. We do not know what to make of this at the moment. We do not know if this is a part of a larger command or nuclear readiness exercise or something along those marks. We haven't seen the Department of Defense make any publicized statements or announcements on that development at the moment, so we do not know what these are in the air for. We don't know if this is just the new standard of readiness that we have, is to have 6 of these airborne 24/7. There's not even a lot of these really in service. From what I can tell, there's only about 16 of these that are in service in the United States Navy right now, and about 33% of them are in the air at the moment. Once again, of course, I don't want to say that nuclear war is coming and everyone's going to die. That would be absolutely fear-mongering with no good merit. But still, it is incredibly odd, and we do not know what the purpose of these aircraft being airborne so often at this point really is about. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right, so this is not the first time we've seen this. This has happened at least a couple of times, apparently this week. So today we did see, of course, right here on the flight radar, we did see 6 of those E-6B nuclear command planes going airborne over America. And why is it happening so often? Because this is a rare deployment that we're seeing right here. So 42% said it's routine nuclear readiness drills, which are pretty much exercises to ensure nuclear readiness, while 35% said it's active nuclear defense measures that could become new protocol in the era of new Russian nuclear threats, and 17% said this is very odd and I need more info first. So to give you all some details about this, the E-6B is a nuclear command plane, also known as the Looking Glass, and basically, if the ground stations which control the nuclear weapons become inoperable, these stations can be controlled from this aircraft right here that you're seeing on screen, which is the E-6B. So this is what this is used for. So essentially, when you'll see these airborne is during times of extreme nuclear threats, when we need to have this ready to go in case the ground stations are destroyed, or during drills. So it's up to speculation right now why we're seeing this happen so often with so many airborne at the same time. It's certainly unusual. So honestly, I would say it's active nuclear defense. That's what I would personally say. Right now, Russia is making some wild threats against the West, and we're close to World War III right now, as close as we've been since World War II. So I would say personally, I think it's active. So I'm with the 34%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I would be with the 34% as well. I actually believe this is some part of a active nuclear defense that we are conducting at the moment. Seeing that these things have now been airborne twice within the 72-hour period, once 2 days ago and once again today, all 6 of them in the air at the same time, that would be incredibly odd if it's a drill getting a twice over literally 2 days after the last one ended. So I would generally have to say I do believe that this is some form of a constant nuclear deterrence operation that we're currently conducting at the moment. It is incredibly tense in the world right now, and there may also be some additional intelligence or information that the U.S. government has that they may not be providing to the public, in that a conventional war in Europe may be a lot closer than anticipated, and for that reason, we're pretty much pulling out all of the redundancies, these included, and stopgaps to make sure that if anything does break out, the U.S. Armed Forces are pretty much at 100% force readiness already. So that may actually be the case, at least with this sort of a situation. Nothing crazy, though. I do want to make it clear. No one's dying in a nuclear hellfire. I know that there's a lot of people out there who make their careers on YouTube just running red alerts every day and telling everyone that the nuclear bombers are flying and everyone's dying. But I can promise y'all, nobody's dying tonight, and nobody's probably dying tomorrow or any other days down the week.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
just
this is not a nuclear bomber, by the way. Like I've seen other YouTubers out there, and it's not all of them. It's only like a handful that do this. This right here is a nuclear command plane. This is not a nuclear bomber. This thing is not carrying nuclear weapons. So some of the people out there make this thing seem like it's some type of nuclear armed aircraft. It is not. It's simply a command post in the sky. So I don't know why people get that confused. It's literally searchable with a simple Wikipedia search. You can find that out. So just to make that clear, this thing is not carrying nukes around in it.
It's not carrying nukes, and it's also not going to be commanding the nukes to be launched, because there's this one guy out there, folks, drives me crazy. Every single day, everyone's dying. It's doomsday every day. It's red alert, the nuclear bombers are flying, the nuclear codes are being transmitted. For some reason on public airwaves where we can hear them, like for some odd reason, and everyone's going to die literally in 2 hours. We're not saying that about this at all. This just appears to be some form of an extension of a nuclear readiness doctrine that we're rolling forward at the moment. I would say that it's not much more than that. A little bit concerning, but not by a great deal. So with that, we are going to be moving on from that news, and we have also been able to hear of a fairly interesting sort of an announcement, at least here soon. From what we've been able to hear, according to the President of the United States, he is proud to announce that on Sunday, October 5th, he'll be hosting a salute to the fleet in Norfolk, Georgia, to honor the brave men and women of the United States Navy. The First Lady, the Secretary of War, and the Secretary of the Navy will be joining the President for the 250th anniversary of the United States Navy. The rest of this is highly political, but beyond that, that's generally what the President was stating. So it's a little bit interesting, because we did see the Army parade for the 250th anniversary of the Army. I think we could have avoided that one. It didn't really seem like anyone got the whole march and step memo down, but it appears that there's now going to be a fleet week down in Norfolk with I believe this would be the U.S. First Fleet or the Third Fleet that would be on the eastern coastline. But nevertheless, that's apparently what we're going to be conducting down here. And I also have to say, folks, I really do not know how that's going to be done, because right now the entire military isn't getting paid. So I guess they're going to do it on orders, even if they're not being paid. I don't know, but that's a little bit of an interesting note.
Oh yeah, they still got to work. They're getting their pay temporarily held at the moment, but they're going to still get paid when the government reopens. But they still got to work though. They can't just sit around.
Oh yeah, they got to work. They got to put in that work. But anyways, moving on out of the Norfolk shipyards and on into the rest of the news that we have for the day, getting us on out of the United States, we're now going to be making our way towards Europe through East Asia, because we have had some developments in this area that are quite interesting, specifically around this Pratas Islands area. The Pratas Islands is a ring of islands. It's right here. Take a look at that. It really is more so just one island, the island of Dongsha, and then the rest of it's pretty much just an atoll that surrounds the island. It's a really interesting spot, though, because it's pretty much a large crater in a sense. Nevertheless, we were able to hear that a China Coast Guard vessel violated the waters around the area, and the Taiwan Coast Guard had to respond and turn the ship away. That's the China Coast Guard vessel that was spotted in the area. That's from Communist China, and the vessel that the picture was taken from is from the Democratic China on the island of Taiwan. They turned the vessel away right after this picture was taken. It took about 15 more minutes or so, and we also were able to see that the Fujian, the brand new carrier that the Chinese just got, is currently down near Hainan in Sanya Port, from what we know. It's taken a transit from Shanghai all the way down to Sanya Port, and was conducting sea trials in the area. But as a part of the Fujian's carrier strike group, or generally fitting out group at the moment, is the Jinan, the Hangzhou, and let's see, one Type 55 cruiser, one Type 54 frigate, a Type 56 corvette, and a Type 52 destroyer. So that appears to be the force that is present within that area. It's not an attack force. They're still conducting sea trials for the Fujian to even see if it's seaworthy at the moment. So that group may not even be active for many more months. But moving on out of the East Asian area, it's now time for for us to get on into the middle of the East. The middle of the road, in a sense. You know, back in the day, folks, this was actually the middle of the Silk Road. Many of y'all know about the Silk Road. It's the one that Marco Polo pioneered on his amazing trip all the way to China. Actually, he didn't pioneer it. He was just the only European at that point that traveled the whole route. The Silk Road had existed well before that, and was a significant portion of the wealth that the Byzantine Empire, which was what was left of the Roman Empire after the Western Roman Empire collapsed and only left the Eastern Roman Empire as the last one standing. But generally, it was a route made up of middlemen that would transport these cargoes of exotic spices, goods, silk, and so on from place to place, and they would drop it off from point to point. Marco Polo was the first guy to make it all the way to China from Europe and to actually see China, which he was wildly impressed with. Nevertheless, the Middle East has been the crossroads of the world since then, and because it's the crossroads of the world, there has been a lot of people who have intersecting interests within this area, like the United States and Russia, or the United States and Iran, or Israel and Iran, or Iran and Israel, or Saudi Arabia and Iran, or the Europeans and Iran, or the Europeans and Israel, or the Israel and Europeans, and so on and so forth. And also a new contender, the Chinese. They set up a base several years ago in Djibouti. He said it, but they set up a base in Djibouti, and so now they are trying to get involved in the Middle East crossroads power plays like the Chinese would love to, although that's been a lot more difficult for them than they thought. Nevertheless, the Russians are still trying to play their part, although they're a minor player these days, and they're continuing their flights of IL-76s into the Islamic Republic of Iran to continue to try and supply them with further equipment and weaponry. We don't know exactly what's on board these aircraft, but it does appear that the Russians are trying to supply them with more weapons for the upcoming war that will be happening in between Israel, the US, and Iran, because the Iranians are continuing to try and develop nuclear weapons. We have also seen, outside of the Islamic Republic of Iran and what's been going on there, a very interesting sort of an announcement has been made about the ongoing conflict inside of the Gaza Strip. From what we have been able to hear, Hamas has agreed to the release of all Israeli hostages, dead or alive, under the current proposal made by the President of the United States. So I will read y'all the Hamas response to the President's proposal. Out of keenness to end the aggression and genocide being carried out against our steadfast people in the Gaza Strip and stemming from national responsibility and in defense of the constants, rights, and higher interests of our people, the Islamic resistance movement Hamas has conducted in-depth consultations within its leadership institutions, broad consultations with Palestinian forces and factions, and consultations with brothers, mediators, and friends in order to reach a responsible position in dealing with the U.S. President Donald Trump's plan. After thorough study, the movement has made its decision and conveyed the following response to the mediators. Hamas appreciates the Arab, Islamic, and international efforts, as well as the efforts of the U.S. President Donald Trump for calling for an end to the war on the Gaza Strip, the exchange of prisoners, the immediate entry of aid, the rejection of the occupation of the Strip, and the rejection of the displacement of our Palestinian people from it. Within this framework, and in a manner that achieves an end to the war and a full withdrawal from the Strip, the movement announces its approval of releasing all occupation prisoners, both living and remains, confirming that some of the hostages have died in captivity, according to the exchange formula contained in President Trump's proposal, with the necessary field conditions for implementing the exchange. In this context, the movement affirms its readiness to immediately enter, through the mediators, into negotiations to discuss the details. The movement also reaffirms its approval to hand over the administration of the Gaza Strip to a Palestinian body of independents, technocrats, based on Palestinian national consensus and supported by Arab and Islamic backing. As for other issues included in President Trump's proposal concerning the future of the Gaza Strip and the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, this is tied to a collective national position and in accordance with relevant international laws and resolutions to be discussed within a comprehensive Palestinian national framework in which Hamas will be included and will contribute with full responsibility. And that was the full statement by Hamas that was made today in response to the U.S. proposal that has been made to end the conflict inside the Gaza Strip. After that announcement was made, the president then called on the halt of all future strikes by the Israelis against the Gaza Strip. The president stated, based on the statement just issued by Hamas, I believe they are ready for a lasting peace. Israel must immediately stop the bombing of Gaza so that they can get the hostages out safely and quickly. Right now, it's far too dangerous to do that. We are already in discussions on details to be worked out. This is not about Gaza alone. This is about long-sought peace in the Middle East. We have then seen that not that long after that statement, about 3 hours later, there was some significant Israeli strikes that were still happening inside of the area south of Gaza City, which you can see in this clip right here.
لا اله الا الله.
تعال يا عبد الله معي.
تعال في ناس في الشارع. هيا هناك مولعة. تعال في ناس في الشارع. في ناس في الشارع. خلاص روح حكيت.
That guy's running with a rug.
اطلع يا جماعة.
Man, the screaming though is a little bit out there.
طيب.
Generally, a lot of people have been talking about this peace deal that has been made today, as it has been somewhat controversial, like many actions that have been made recently. Some are saying that it is going to be the beginning of peace, and everything's finally going to be over between Israel and the Gaza Strip, or generally the Hamas forces that are inside of Gaza. Some others are saying that this is just a beginning, many steps have to be made from here, and some others are saying that it really depends on the next moves, and this thing is incredibly fragile. I've got to say, honestly, folks, this is an interesting one. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it, and what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So right now, based on what we're seeing and hearing from all the different officials from Israel, from the United States, etc., it sounds like Hamas has agreed to release the hostages, and they said dead or alive. So that's not a good sign, in my personal opinion. That sounds very bad. So might the saga really be over after the recent U.S. threats toward these Hamas terrorists? And it looks like 44% said no, it's just beginning right now. This is definitely not over. While 38% said it depends on the next moves by Hamas, and 10% said yes, it will finally be over. And I'll be honest with you, typically this type of stuff never goes really good. I would love for it to come to an end and the hostages be released, but I really doubt that Hamas, which is a terrorist group, I need to remind people about that. This is a terrorist group, not known for being honest. I don't have very big hopes about this. It sounds like the president's currently banking on this actually working out, which I would hope it works out. But at the same time, though, I would say Hamas is likely to either back out of the deal or do something to mess the deal up. That's my guess. And also, how many of the hostages are actually still alive? We don't really know that right now. And hearing dead or alive, that gets me really, really worried. So, Enforcer, what say you about joke?
Well, I would say, me personally, I would have to be honest with y'all folks, I don't really think that this is going to be the end of it at all. And I don't think that any sort of a negotiated settlement with Hamas is ever going to end this. This is a very difficult sort of a thing to talk about, though, because there really is no clear and easy answer to this at all, and everything is incredibly ugly and nasty when you actually start getting into the details of it. Doing this right now is guaranteeing that within several years, maybe the next 10, there's going to be another October 7th sort of an attack on Israel by Hamas. It can be guaranteed. This sort of action, this sort of a ceasefire or treaty agreement has been made endless times over the decades between the Israelis and Hamas. As a matter of fact, it was shocking when the October 7th attack was conducted, because for the last 10 years before that, Hamas had conducted practically no attacks on Israel because of a prior treaty that had been made under the Obama administration that pretty much followed these very same lines with that treaty that was also made. Not to say that, I'm not trying to be political by saying that, President, I just want to make it clear this has been something that's been tried even by prior administrations and has resulted in little results. In terms of short-term results, they're significant. In terms of long-term impact on actually bringing peace to the Middle East, all it does is kind of kick this can down the road and make it someone else's problem, whoever is the president, whenever it starts up again. I would have to be honest with y'all. The alternative, however, is also quite difficult. Hamas is heavily entrenched inside the Gaza Strip, not only as a force, but as an ideology amongst the Palestinian people living in the Gaza Strip. So going into the Gaza Strip and trying to deal with them is always going to be a nasty business. There's going to be huge amounts of civilian casualties, like we've seen so far. There are going to be massive humanitarian crises, because any attempt at aid inside the Gaza Strip will most likely be seized by Hamas and used for them to continue to feed and supply their forces with usable food products, so on and so forth. So there really is, I'll be honest with y'all, there really is no clean-cut way to deal with this. Either way, it's just going to end up becoming a lengthy, nasty, and drawn-out sort of an ordeal. So I would have to say that while this seems to be a beginning right now, I would have to be honest with y'all that I'm not really an optimist either way that this goes at the moment. Whether the Israelis continue to try and fight Hamas, or if this thing ended, it's guaranteeing that conflict will continue well on into the future, either direction that you take. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. But I personally, folks, cannot think of an easy way to end this deal. So maybe this is the best resolution that we can see at the moment. But I would have to say that this is a tough one, folks. Because also on top of that, just to explain this as well, for some people who may not know a lot about Hamas, Hamas is a funded force of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is the armed wing of the Iranian government. And as long as Hamas exists, they will always be connected to the Iranian financial and equipment apparatus, which has continued to keep them on life support for decades now. And they'll just once again rearm and rebuild, and they'll be funded, and then they'll start this up again whenever they're ready. So this won't end. Like this peace deal will not end this. And this group is an incredibly violent and radical group. I mean, if you look at what the Houthis logo is. I'll go pull this up for y'all really quickly, just to give y'all an idea of how extremist these groups are, and just to already get y'all to the end, at least originally. You cannot find an end with an extremist. They will always keep pushing their extremist ideology no matter what. The Houthis' legitimate emblem and logo is the slogan in Arabic, "Death to Israel, death to America." That's how extreme that they are. It's literally their emblem. They don't have an eagle or some sort of a national animal or anything like that for their movement. It's literally just the slogan of death to the Americans and the Israelis. And that makes it fairly clear that you'll never be able to reason with a group of people like that, because their end goal and objective, literally sworn to even in their symbology, is the destruction of our nation and the Israelis as well. So as long as the United States and Israel exists, that group will keep going. As long as the U.S. and Israel continues to exist, Hamas will keep fighting. As long as Israel and America continues to exist, Hezbollah will keep fighting. So unless you find some way to completely destroy them, which isn't really possible either, this is going to keep going until the end of time. The reality, folks, is that this wouldn't go till the end of time if they lost their funding and their equipment apparatus, which means that you'd have to deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran, because if no one out there in the world is funding them or arming them, no matter how much hatred they have for the Israelis or the Jews in Israel or us as Americans, there's no way for them to act out on that hatred, because they don't have the funds to buy new fighters for their forces or arms to arm those fighters with. They are completely at a dead end at that point. So if you really want to deal with this issue, it's not dealing with Hamas, it's more so dealing with Iran. And if you knock Iran out of the picture, at least the radical Islamic government they have, which heavily leans into terrorism as a force of power within the region, this all would generally end up coming to a close pretty easily and pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would say so.
But with that, folks, I hope I addressed that well, at least in my 2 cents. But it is time for us to move on into the next segment of our stream, which is on up here inside of Europe. We're about to cover all of the European news that's happened today. But before we get into all of that, I do want to make sure that we address a couple of questions that we've gotten from the chat, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of the news for the night. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our super chats, our first 3 of the news segment here, and then jumping right back to our news. This one goes to Marius Nor 78, who puts in a $100 donation. And thank you very much, Marius, for very generous support and one of the largest super chats of the night. And Marius said, "A storm is napping me up." And thank God you guys came online now.
And I hate to hear that. I'm so sorry a storm's keeping you up at the moment. But I do thank you so much for the support, Marcus, and helping the channel to keep rolling. And I'm happy to know that we're able to keep you company while a storm is passing through in Norway right now. I actually didn't know a storm was going through Norway at the moment. That's quite interesting. If y'all didn't know, there's a tropical storm right now that's causing quite a decent amount of damage near Buxton in North Carolina. So hopefully it's not a storm like that, because it was crazy, folks. I was watching the footage from today, and the skies are perfectly clear, sky blue. The waves and the swells are starting to lap up off of the beach and onto the island itself, and it's washing houses out to sea, like entire houses out right now. And I was like, dang, that is crazy. That's nuts. You rarely ever see clear skies and swells like that. It was a crazy sort of a thing. Hopefully that's not happening in Norway, but I do thank you so much for supporting this channel, because you help us to be on air every day, so that way when storms pass through places like yours, we are on air to keep you company as that storm is passing on through. So a massive thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running. So a humongous thanks to you so much once again. And also, I saw some people in the chat saying something, and I find this interesting, because some people are very entrenched in this idea that Islam as a religion is a violent one. I would have to disagree quite heavily with that, because yes, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas all are a part of radical Islam. But look at all the allies that we have inside the Middle East that are Islamic kingdoms or Islamic caliphates, and we are allies with them, and also they are incredibly benevolent. You can travel there as an American and go around as a tourist. Like, for example, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, the Kingdom of Jordan, Kuwait. All those countries are incredibly stable, and they are Islamic countries. They have Islamic governments, generally absolute monarchies, and yet they still are allies of the United States. And not only that, we have pretty significant economic relations with most of these countries, and you can also visit there as an American and pretty much be assured that you're incredibly safe as long as you follow their laws. That's something that I'd have to say, it generally is something that I would have to really kind of like say, at least up front, it's not a religion that is an issue, it's radicalism. Because you could make the same argument about generally any religion on the planet. You can make the same argument about Christianity by saying the Irish Republican Army was conducting terrorist attacks in Britain, and so clearly Christianity is a radical religion that cannot be dealt with. And I would have to say that the IRA was a group of terrorist outliers that took Christianity, or at least Catholicism, and then turned it into some sort of a radical ideology to attack the United Kingdom with. But certainly an outlier, not a representative of the Christian religion, or for that matter, at least with the Islamic terrorist groups, or the radical ones inside the Middle East, certainly not a representative of the Islamic peoples and nations as a whole within that area. So
the one thing that goes wrong, though, and I do agree with you mainly on everything you just said there, but the problem is when countries start turning a religion into basically the governance structure of that entire country, in my opinion, that's when it goes wrong. It's not exclusive to any specific religion. If you start trying to mix governing a group of people that have different beliefs and trying to impose one type of religion through the government on that entire group of people, you start having a massive problem. It happens every single time. And me personally, I'm Christian. I personally wouldn't want a Christian government, to be honest with you, because that always leads to extremism of a certain sort. Because once one type of belief starts taking over, even though it may be my belief, it starts creating problems, because nobody wants to be told what to believe. And by nature of a government like that, you get told what to believe. And that creates war, it creates fights, and it creates problems. And we want peace. We don't want fighting.
I would have to be honest with y'all folks. While I'm a Christian, I would say that religious theocracies are as dangerous, at least in terms of the kind of radicalism that they foster, as any form of a communist or fascist government does as well. They're very dangerous to the people who live within those countries, because they usually follow extremist sorts of rules or ideologies, and not only that, they act on those on an international stage, much like a communist state or a fascist state would, that has nothing to do with being a religious theocracy. Any sort of a government like that does not respect the individual rights, and more so looks at it as a collectivist right, is a fairly dangerous sort of a country to live in, especially for the individual. It doesn't allow for individualism. I think that a lot of people are amiss on that here in the United States of America, and also some people have been amiss on that, even trying to create a rebuttal in the chat, because I saw some people make a rebuttal, well, that's not really a good argument, the IRA, because the IRA are Catholics. Well, I don't know if y'all know this, but the Islamic faith, much like the Christian faith, isn't all just Muslims. There are different sects of Muslims or Islamic people. There are Sunnis, there are Shiites, there are loads of different groups even beyond that, much smaller than those two, but much like Protestants and Catholics, those are the two major sects of the Islamic faith that you would find in the Middle East or around the rest of the world. So looking at them in a two-dimensional lens is doing a great disservice, at least in terms of analysis, to that group. And you could make the same argument here in the West that any sort of religious theocracy would, of course, like the Islamic ones, at least wherever it's extremist, would end up leading to the same sorts of results. It would either become some sort of an extremist Protestant theocracy of a specific sect, so it would end up becoming Baptist or Pentecostal or Methodist or something along those lines, or if it was Catholic, it's just Catholic. There's really no differentiation of Catholic groups. They're all Catholic and answer to the Pope inside the Vatican, and all centralize their control from there. But still,
Yeah, look at Britain. Look at Britain. A huge reason why the colonists wanted to separate away is they felt like the English church was persecuting them. So it was technically a form of Christian governance that was going on there, but nonetheless, it still caused problems and fighting because it wasn't the exact type that the people wanted to believe in that were in America. And also, they wanted freedom to be able to believe what they wanted and a whole bunch of other things too in their government that was different than the UK. They didn't want all that crackdown happening, so they left the UK and they went over here and had independence, which led to us. But at the same time, though, it's with all of the religions. It's with all of them. It's just impossible when you have a large group of people to say, let's all be identical and be the same. And because it ends up, you have to tell people what they believe in. And it's like, this is what I've never understood personally about folks. It's fine to tell people what you believe in. Like, it's perfectly fine. And it's very good if people have very, very strong beliefs, but you can't expect to go tell somebody what to believe and expect them not to revolt against it. Nobody wants to be told what to believe. It doesn't matter what it is. They want to have the ability to choose that. So while I personally have my beliefs, I understand you can't force that on other people, but there's still people around the world that will still do it. And that's, in my opinion, like, for example, in the Middle East, it's not taking aim at one particular religion. There's multiple religions in the Middle East that have like a theocratic government. That's why you see fighting in those countries quite a bit, is because they're trying to force one set of beliefs on a group of people, which doesn't work.
And I would have to say, much like any other extremist government, I don't think a lot of people understand that. And also, I saw someone say, Christian extremism, joke commentators. Well, I mean, there's endless examples of it, even in the modern era. In Lebanon, there was the Liberation Front. In Ireland, it was the IRA. In other countries, there's been other groups similar to that. I don't know if you know this, but in Nazi Germany, there was an extremist religious group that believed that they were the word on Christianity. I mean, there's been groups like that in modern history in Christianity that have existed and throughout history. If you don't know this, the second deadliest war in human history is not World War I. It's the War of the Heavenly Ascension, which was inside of China. And basically, this guy who ended up failing a civil servant exam inside of China had a fever, and when he recovered from the fever, he claimed that he was the brother of Jesus Christ. And this guy was alive in the 1800s, so clearly that wasn't true. But nevertheless, he claimed that he was the brother of Jesus Christ, and he was here to bring forth the heavenly kingdom. And a whole bunch of people in China just 100% were like, yeah, that guy, like, he's alive 1800 years after Jesus was crucified. He's totally Jesus's brother. I believe that. So they all joined forces with him, and they ended up going to war. 40 million people died in that war of the Heavenly Ascension, which lasted for 10 straight years. So if you want to say that religious extremism only is in one religion or the other, it's in any religion that exists in the world. It's a nutty sort of a thing, to be entirely honest with you all, how some people try and differentiate and say, well, these people don't do that, like, the Christians would never, or the Democrats or the Republicans would never do bad things, or the Islamic people would never do bad things. Every single group is made up of people, and like every group of people in the world, there are going to be bad eggs out there who take advantage of a system and end up either being a cutthroat or a bandit or a bad egg in general. Like, this is going to happen wherever people are, in any group, of any belief, of any faith, of any conviction, of any government system, of any economic model. It's always going to be there. And so I always find judgments passed against full groups of people without taking it in as a case-by-case basis, person by person, to be a very odd sort of a thing, because, it just doesn't really apply. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. But also at the same time, folks, I also see some people taking this and running with it. a lack of religion is as dangerous as an extremist that is religious as well. If y'all do not know that as well, because I see a lot of people saying, well, the answer is just clearly no religion. Well, look at all of the state-sponsored atheist nations that have existed, like the Soviet Union, and look at how that turned out, or communist China, and look how that turned out. That turned out as badly as a religious theocracy. I mean, clearly the answer is neither. The answer is allowing, like the United States does, for the individual to have the say and the right on what religion they believe, what religion they profess, and how they would go about it. That's clearly the answer, because that's the one that succeeded the most and has ended up killing the least amount of people through its benevolent sort of action, at least in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. The less people have in common with one another, the less cohesive they're going to be. That's just common sense. So if you don't have any common threads with your neighbors and you're basically all strangers, what do you have to unite people at that point? Not very much. And that's when you start seeing societies become fractured. Kind of like, and this isn't political, I have to say that every single time, so I know somebody's going to take it that way. But in America right now, you see a lot of fracturing in our society. Like, people don't have much in common with other people anymore. Everybody is so different and so unique that there is no common threads hardly with people. People don't even identify with being Americans anymore. Like, some people are like, they hate America. Some people like America. There's not even a common thread with they like the country as it is. It's becoming that fractured. So that's a huge problem they have to solve. People have to find common interests and common threads, or otherwise societies will fall apart. But nonetheless, though, we have like rabbit holed the hell out of this one right here. So we are moving on to our next super chat, the second of the third one. This one goes to Lil Donut, who puts in a $100 support, and thank you very much, Lil Donut, for that support as well. Very generous of you. And Lil Donut said, hopefully to the future president and vice president and LSA.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support. And hopefully we will one day be the president and vice president of the United States. And you know what we could do, folks? We could do like Putin and Medvedev. Whenever we get done with the first 8 years, whoever is there, we just flip. And then the next one becomes the president, and then the other one's the vice president. I don't know if that would actually work in technicality. I don't think it would. But beyond that, that would be an interesting idea. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who will help us to eventually try and secure the presidency in 2040. So a massive thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Zyper Sniper 1, who puts in a $20 support. And thank you very much, Zyper Sniper, for that support once again. And we do appreciate that. It's good to see you. He said, I found a NATO tribute song, and the lyrics goes like this. Stand with the brave, stand with the free. The alliance strong as sea. And we fight as one. We fear no foe. Where freedom calls, we raise and go. Unless it's drones. I added that part.
We are observing them. We are observing them. It's a misclick. Calm down. But beyond that, I'd say huge thanks to you for the support, Cyber Sniper. And hopefully NATO will stand together whenever the ultimate test comes. And it looks like it's around the corner here soon. But a massive thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible. And we wouldn't be able to keep it running. And so with that, folks, it's time for us to move on into the rest of the news that we have from Europe. And we're going to be starting as close as we can to Asia and then working our way into Western Europe and then into Ukraine. We were able to see the Ukrainians landed a wild hit today at the city of Orsk within the Orenburg Oblast, striking and destroying another refinery within the city. Everyone's out here like, oh, what's going on? Oh my god! There's rifle fire.
Oh dear.
There it is! Oh look! It's a Liudi!
Take over, Aiden. Hey, look at it, it's going down. Oh, look, they now decided. Yeah, bro! Oh, he's happy for this. That's a shock.
This guy is just happy because he's getting the day off to go drink. Like, it's like...
Honestly, I don't know what's up with this. Like, seriously speaking, like, how many videos have we watched of like the Ukrainian drones hitting like oil refineries, and the Russians will be cheering in the video, or they'll be like happy about it? Like, it's a really weird thing.
I don't know, actually. Like, I don't know why they do that. I guess they just have like a craving for violence. I don't know. Like, but here's another one.
Вон он, пидорас летит, сука, беспилотный, нахуй. Пиздец.
What an interesting sort of a deal right there. What an interesting sort of a deal. But moving on from that and on out of at least that region of Russia, we also got to see that another refinery was also hit within Kurishi in the Leningrad Oblast. There's a picture of the fire burning at the refinery. So 2 refineries were taken out today over the past 24 hours in Russia. In the meantime, in Europe, things have not been tranquil, to say the least. We have heard that the Danish are now the largest supporter of Ukraine by GDP percentage, even beating out Estonia, which had actually been the #1 holder, at least by GDP percentage. Just to share this with y'all, this is not the amount of money that each one of these countries has sent. This is the percentage of their gross domestic product in terms of monetary value that they provided to Ukraine. So now, by gross domestic product value, the Danish are now the largest arms provider to Ukraine by percentage of GDP. Crazily enough, the United States is literally dead last, although we provided, I think, the most as a singular country. Kind of giving you all an idea how that sort of works, but still an interesting depiction nonetheless. Still, the Danish have not had a good time near to their borders. According to what we've been able to hear from a Reuters post today, and also from Danish officials, we've been able to hear that the Danish intelligence chief, Thomas Ahrenkiel, stated that Russian warships have repeatedly attempted collisions with Danish vessels in the country's territorial waters and have even pointed weapons at Danish ships and helicopters. He added that Russian ships use special equipment to jam GPS signals, causing nationwide disruptions across Denmark. In our assessment, Russia is currently waging hybrid war against Denmark and the West. Moscow wants us to believe war is inevitable. They want us to live with that fear. At the same time, Britain accused Russia of systematically jamming RAF satellites. Major General Paul Tedman said that Russian interference had become a weekly occurrence since the start of the war in Ukraine, using both ground-based systems and Russian satellites, maneuvering dangerously close to British ones to gather data. In Belgium, the Defense Ministry is investigating an incident involving 15 drones spotted over a military base in Elsenborn near the German border. We're actually getting to that in a minute. Similar cases were reported in Germany. According to Bild, up to 6 unidentified drones circled over a Bundeswehr air base in Erding near Munich before heading towards the international airport, forcing a temporary suspension of operations. Clearly, things are not as nice or civil as a lot of people believed when the curtain was finally pulled back on what's been happening around Denmark. In the meantime, we have been able to hear of the drone sightings that were seen near to the Belgian airbase of Elsenborn, near to the German border today, and it does appear the defense official spoke on that a little bit, but not a lot of information was provided. The Munich airport was also shut down for the second day in a row today, with multiple flights having to be put on hold or having to be diverted to other airports around the area. We have also heard, at the same time, that drones were spotted near to the area of the Vltava airport in Prague, and we were able to see that aircraft were once again having to conduct holding patterns near the area while the airspace was closed. Interesting enough, Czech state police stated that snipers were actively monitoring the drones around the airport.
Snipers?
Yeah, snipers. They were just going to try and shoot them down with a sniper rifle, apparently.
What the hell? I've never heard that before. Shoot down, let me get this straight. You said a sniper to shoot down a drone that was flying toward the airport?
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting. I've never heard that defense before.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before either. That was a new one to me, but the Czechs whipped out the snipers. So I don't know if those would ever be effective against a drone. You know, generally it takes a pretty decent amount of machine gun fire and just kind of eyeballing it to hit those drones effectively. But apparently the Czechs whipped out the snipers. That was actually a fairly interesting sort of move. We didn't hear of any of the drones getting shot down, but they did have snipers observing them, apparently, according to the Czech police. Still, it does appear that there has been a mass of Russian drone incursions, and not only that, Russian provocations, specifically against Denmark. And a lot of people have been putting in their thoughts on this. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it as well?
And first of all, I got to say, it's absolutely insane how this has become normalized. Look at how many drone incursions there's been just over the past 48 hours or so. We just went over 3 of them in 3 different countries. This has become normalized. Like it's really not getting headlines anymore. It used to get them just about 2 weeks ago. Now it's barely getting headlines. Like it's already become, I hate to use the phrase, the new normal. It's already become that right now. People are really not batting an eye at it because NATO is really not responding to it. And it keeps happening. And we still don't know who's doing it, or at least NATO won't own up to it. So that's a crazy part to me that's become so normalized. But also in the poll right here, it says Denmark reports Russian ships are attempting collisions with their ships in Denmark and also pointing weapons at their people too. And what are your thoughts? 43% said Russia simply sees Denmark as being weak, while 39% said Russia hates Denmark for Ukrainian support, and 13% said it sounds like common occurrences. So I would say on this one, this sounds like, since Denmark is at the top of the list for GDP support of Ukraine, that most likely that's why Russia is picking on Denmark. Because I had wondered, why are they honing in on Denmark? It seems like Copenhagen is right now the epicenter of the drone sightings that we're hearing about, and now we're hearing that ships are apparently pointing guns at Denmark's navy and also their military. So I would say personally, that is probably the reason. I'm actually with the 40% because Denmark, while they're not known as like a military powerhouse, they're also not weak either. It's not like they're just a pushover, but they're also not a mega power either. So I think it mainly is because they're at the top of the list. They became target number one. But Enforcer, what say you?
Really quickly, let me actually show you all how big the Danish military is, at least really quickly. Oh yeah, here we go. So they are about as big in operational capacity, crazily enough, as the Estonians. They have one division made up of 3 brigades. All 3 of these are mechanized brigades. So this is a lot like the Iron Wolf brigade inside of Lithuania. They also have a divisional artillery regiment that supports the 3 mechanized infantry brigades. And they also have a reservist group made up of generally a training school for the larger part that's also brigade strength level. So that's what the Danish have as a ground force. And also as a naval force, they also have a pretty decent amount of forces present there as well. Let me go show you all that. So let me go get this really quickly. And let me see here. The Royal Danish Navy. I like their emblem. Very classy looking. But let me get you all down to the ships. Oh, let's see here. Where in the world is it? Where is it? Where is it? Ah, here we are. Whoop. Oh, I may have passed it. Oh, here we go. Vessels. So they have 2 Absalon class. This is their largest of the vessels. Oh, look, it's a Sky Ranger turret on that thing. Look, it's right there, Matthew. Look, see, look at that. Damn.
Now, isn't that nice right there? I like to see that right there. Isn't that Swedish made or something?
I think that's German made by Rheinmetall, but the Danish loved it so much they put it on a ship. That's actually really cool. They also have 3 Hudveld class corvettes as well. Well, actually air defense frigates. They also have 4 Thetis class frigates on top of that. Then everything else is a patrol vessel, a light boat, minesweepers, and so on. But generally, as far as their actual ships or forces, at least in combat, or the surface fleet is the best way to say it, they actually do have a pretty decent little force present here, especially for the small amount of seas that they patrol around Denmark. So I'd have to say they're not a weak force at all, and also their air force is a pretty sizable one as well. So it is interesting to see that the Russians are continuing to conduct these actions. Maybe the Russians do view them as weak. I'd probably have to go with the 41 or the 38% on that, but it's not really like the Danish, at least for their size as a country, are weak. They're actually fairly strong for the size and GDP of a nation that they have. But anyways, with that, I hope that is addressed the best we can. And moving on into the Ukraine war, we still have more to cover. Inside of Moscow today, we were able to hear that Putin stated that Moscow is ready to respond to NATO support for Ukraine, and that was hours before the drones were spotted in Europe. Moving on down into Bryansk, it appears that the fuel crisis has expanded to the border region of Bryansk. Oh, goodness. Boo-hoo-hoo. They have no gas. It's very unfortunate. Moving on down into Kursk, we also get to hear of an ongoing Ukrainian drone attack in Russia. We haven't been able to see any video or picture evidence yet of the actual attacks and also the impacts that they've made, but we'll probably be getting those by about tomorrow. Meanwhile, inside of Ukraine, the air defense report did come out for the night, and it was pretty decent. Out of 416 drones and missiles that were fired, 320 were shot down. It's about a 75% interception rate. Not the best that we've seen, just to make that clear, but it's also not bad either. So, a little bit interesting to note. Moving on out of that, and on towards the area of the Kursk Oblast, we also saw the 156th Mechanized Brigade hitting a Russian tank with a drone. And there it is. It's a Russian tank. What type is it? A T-62M, believe it or not. Fairly old. You can also see them hitting a whole bunch of other stuff. It's like it's like a PowerPoint.
They got the rims. They got the rims on the ATV right there. Did you see that right there? I'll tell you what, they had those things on 20s.
Oh my God, bro!
Look at that, man.
Chromed up on a Tuesday. Like, look at this.
That's wild right there. I tell you what, they got the 20s on it.
Man, I've never seen an ATV in Russia all chromed up. Also, it looks like they're going for... Oh my goodness, they went for another one. And they went for a lot of Neva. That thing cooked up pretty nicely. And they also went for this UAZ 469, I think that was. I really could not tell y'all. But moving on from that and into the location unknowns, we also got to see that the Buke was rebuked today. That's what's left of the Buke. Womp womp. Very sad. Look at it. Man, that watermark, that thing's flying around like it's having a good old time. Good time Charlie here. Look at this. It's going up to the upper right, and then down to
these
the
watermarks
bottom.
are getting crazy these days, honestly. Like, everybody's watermarks are getting crazier.
I mean, honestly, man, like, next thing you know, man, it's just going to be playing on a loop. Trapaholics, like, through the whole clip. Like, it won't even be a song anymore. Well, you see them showing the debris of the burning Buke.
It looks like it's nice and burned, too. Oh, look, there's a little something over there still hanging out.
A little remnant of a Buke missile. Like, and there's another one on top of the thing. So I guess the propellant exploded, but the shells of the missiles just kind of fell around all over the place. That one actually looks like it went off. Like, if you look back here, you can actually see a streak, burn streak from the motor running. So I guess when it got hit, it ignited the propellant in the missile. It probably did a loop and just slammed right back into the ground in that direction, and the motor burned on out. I'm guessing.
Must have been.
But nice to see. In the meantime, we also got the Russian casualty reports, and oh buddy folks, those were pretty decent today. And Miss Decent Keeper of the Records is back! And so, over the past 24 hours, according to Miss Decent Keeper of the Records, day 1,318 includes adjustments to totals. Artillery system increase, plus 64. MLRS increase of plus 6. Anti-aircraft systems decrease of minus 2. UAV decrease of minus 3. Cruise missile increase of plus 3. Vehicle and fuel tank decrease of minus 22. And special equipment decrease of minus 9. Which is very sad. But Ms. Disa also added that special equipment total is wrong. It should be 3,970. And so, with all those corrections in mind, let's go through the past 24 hours. Over the past 24 hours, we've been able to see that 970 Russian soldiers have been wounded and killed, along with 1 APC, 44 supply trucks, 1 main battle tank, 13 artillery pieces, 273 Vrona, and 1 MLRS. All in all, not a bad day, and we're about to show y'all why it was not a bad day in the nation of Ukraine. Up in the Kupiansk area, we got to see that the Ukrainians hit a inflatable boat. Call that thing a dinghy the way they be dinging. And they hit it. Blew it to pieces. We can also see them going...
I'm telling you what, they've always said for a long time that the Russians have, little dinghies compared to the Ukrainians. I would say this right here is not even really a dinghy. This right here is like something you get from like the dollar store or something.
That looks like an Explorer 300 you get at the beach. Like, without it being orange.
Yeah, they're just missing the cheap plastic paddle.
Ivan and his boys were up on their tiny dinghy, and they were getting pounded. Like,
Interesting.
But they got it. It's gone, folks. It's gone. They also got this block of an object in the trees.
Lord Cox said it was anchored. Was it anchored to the bottom of the riverbed or the creek bed or whatever? Was it?
Yes,
I think
it
is.
was. It was anchored.
No.
Oh,
They wanting to be real sailors so bad they anchored down the dollar store boat. They can't do this. This is an abomination.
And they said, "Yard, cast anchors, my boy." Ding, ding, while on the Explorer 300. Oh my God! Let me show y'all what this is. An Explorer 300 raft. This is literally the raft. Like, that's it. Like, if I show y'all that. That is literally the raft. Like, it's like a slightly larger version of this.
Yeah, I don't think it's made by the same company right there, but it's a similar looking raft, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, almost same design and everything. It's just that this one's green, and it's a little bit more oval shaped. But they got it. So, moving on from that, we also get to see them trying to attack some rafts that were being inflated in the tree line. And also another raft that's sitting in the reeds. Oh my God, that one apparently was carrying ammo. So the kitty rafts are now carrying guns and ammo, folks. That's one for the ATF. We also, sadly, they're shut down. But anyways, moving on from that, we also get to see them hitting some additional targets as well. and a Russian. Oh, and one that's swimming. He swam, but not for long. But that's the end of the clip. But moving on from that and on out of the Kupiansk area and all of that silliness that was going on with the inflatable rafts, we are now going to be passing by the Sebronsky Forest, the Seversk front, and the Konstantinivka front, and moving our way on down into the Pokrovsk front, where we were able to see the 1,129th Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment conducting drone-on-drone warfare and taking those bad boys down. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And they're about to really take down a bad boy right here. Look at this little stubby thing.
You don't think this is the drone that's flying over Denmark, do you?
Oh, hell nah. Look how stupid and ugly that thing looks.
It does look stupid. Also, does this say 600,000? Why'd they have a dollar sign in front of it?
Brati 600,000. Lisha za dva bilvtoni. Bilvto, Bilvoti. I don't know what that last word is, but I don't know what that means, folks. I pronounced all that. I have no clue what it means, but they did hit it. Apparently, it's 600 grand. I'm doubting that, but hey, maybe 600,000 rubles, but not 600 grand. But moving on from that and on down the way to Kurakove, we also got to see the Russians getting hit around here by the 35th Marines. They put one in the bush. And they're also
like one of those like high like telephoto zoom lenses they had in that bush back there. Look, they had one of those like really expensive lenses in the bush. Is that what I'm seeing right there?
Here on National Geographics, we are going to be showing you all the Ukrainian FPV. This one got too close to the cameraman and ended up dispatching him.
Like his man, like it really did look like that though.
Yeah, it kind of does. Whatever it was, though, it's gone, though. They're not going to get that back.
Oh! And they hit it again. They're hitting this thing a lot.
And they've started a fire now. They'll have to bring out Smokey the Bear, or Russia's version of that, or whatever that thing is. They'll have to bring him out. Oh, yeah, Misha. They have to bring out Misha the Bear to come have a word with these people.
Man, I actually heard an allegation that Misha the Bear was at a Diddy party.
I don't know about all that. I don't know about all that.
Man, I heard it was out there easy like Sunday morning and all that stuff. Is very questionable. In the meantime, the Ukrainians did clear 4 settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk direction, which we see in this clip right here as they raise the flag.
This drone's got some good zoom on it right here. This is a good advertisement for this thing. This thing's zooming in far.
Man, I was about to say a shot on a Ukrainian drone or something like that. Like, you know, the shot on iPhone ad thing.
Kind of so, yeah.
Kind of so. This outro is interesting. Oh. Bro, they hit us with the flaming arrows.
And like archers or something. You know, those type that like fire, you know.
You know, you remember those English longbowmen in the 24-hour Agincourt, don't you? Don't you, Jack? But anyways, moving on down to Wheelapole, we also got to see a member of the Freedom of Russia Legion dodging a Russian FPV by inches. Take a look. He's got the shotty. He hit it, and it barreled right over him. Missed him by inches, literally.
Is that one of those semi-automatic shotties? And also, did you see that translucent shotgun shell that came out the side of it? Did you see that?
Oh, those are common. Like, I've shot some shotgun shells with those kinds of shells before.
What is it, birdshot?
I think it might be. I've seen, like, let me look around really quickly online. I can't show you all the shells, but let me go pull up 12 gauge buckshot. I would expect that it's birdshot, but it could be buckshot. But let me make sure. Let's see.
Surely they're not shooting slugs at it. I would imagine it's some type of birdshot.
Oh yeah, crazily enough, there actually are transparent shotgun shells, 12 gauge buckshot, just like that, from Fiocchi.
Huh.
which is a pretty good brand, at least in my opinion. Some people diss on them. I've never had a problem, but like I have to give a disclaimer for some people like, you shoot Fiocchi? I'm gonna, yes, I like sometimes it's cheap. But beyond that, yeah, there's actually a lot of transparent ones out there for sale, like from almost every company. So that could be any shotgun shell from anywhere. But they got it and went right over. I would assume it's buckshot, folks, because that gives a little bit of a longer range and a bit more impact, especially if a pellet hits. But anyways, moving on from that, and out of that clip, and on down into the area of Verbove. We got to see the Russians getting hit down here by an ambush crew. There goes the Russians on their ATV, and the Ukrainians are about to give them some of that FPV.
First person perspective. Wait a minute, hold on. First person
view.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's more like it.
Man, first person perspective. That starts with a V. But moving on down the line in Zaporizhia, we also get to see the 65th Ronin doing its work as well. We see them bringing it on in. Look, Jack, you got to talk about that FPV, that perspective.
Look, you got to sit there and talk about the drones. Back in my day, me and Obama, we call up a Reaper, and
well, anyway, look, folks, you got to remember the children and the man on the moon, and is he real or something, or anyway, like, we can see them continuing to target the Russian forces within this area.
Man, between that and also these leaders out here solving these wars between Martians on Jupiter and Pluto, we got some good ones out here. I'm telling you.
Look, are you okay, man? Greenland? Did you go to Greenland? Is everything all right? Look, we got to talk about the aliens, or are they legal? They're not even from this planet. Like, it's something. Anyways, we see them continuing to fly the drones around. Oh, the worms. Man, they hit them with the worms.
You got to remember that it's not something you just call up at will. It's not on demand. You got to understand it's something that you have to summon. You have to channel it through you. It goes from top to bottom. It's something that comes through the soul. You have to think it through, okay? Stop accusing me. Stop accusing me of that.
Boy, he's got he's got a stammer. Step ladder, stepsister. What are you doing? Anyway, what I'm trying to say here is the cancer rates and the Call of Duty or something like that. Anyway, but anyways, oh man.
Also, I hope by the way, these Russians are getting hammered right now. Like the Ronin unit right here is doing a number on them.
Oh, the Ronin is a very effective unit. It's a very good drone unit. They have built up a record down here in the Zaporizhia front. They're a force to be reckoned with for sure. But moving on from that, I also have to show y'all a little bit of archival footage that came out today. And it is something, to say the least. Moving us on down into Tuaps. This is archival footage of a ship that actually was at the oil loading pier here in Tuaps when the drone attack happened by the Ukrainians. This is the closest camera angle that we've gotten of the explosion. So here's the clip.
Floating drone. All floating drones. Hit.
Oh. Dang.
Oh.
It's not in our vessel. It's not.
These guys were on board their ship looking at it?
Yeah, they were on board the ship at that pier, watching it come in on the other side and blow up the pier on the other end.
Damn, that's crazy right there. It literally just came flying in. I bet they thought they were going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, honestly. You can see the little Russian patrol boat that tried to intercept the drone and failed, and it's shooting at the other one coming in right there. But that's the end of that clip. Crazy, honestly. I'll be honest with y'all. We've been getting endless amounts of camera angles out of Tawaps over the past week since that attack happened. That's probably one of the crazier ones that we've seen so far. But with all that said and done, folks, it's now time for us to move on up to Kyiv and get to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on this very day of the war. So, let me get y'all the subtitles here in English, and without further ado, here is the speech. Peach!
Шановні українці, провів ставку енергетика. Доповіді по захисту наших об'єктів по відновленню. Сьогодні був черговий російський удар по нашій газовій інфраструктурі. Якраз напередодні опалювального сезону росіяни шукають способи завдати більше шкоди нашим людям. Тільки в одному цьому ударі, саме по газовим об'єктам, було 35 ракет, в тому числі балістика. Комбінований удар, лише половину ракет вдалося збити. Непроста ситуація на Чернігівщині після ударів дронами, в Славутичі, в Ніжині, також в самому Чернігові і на Сумщині. Вже ввечері був удар балістики на Донеччині, теж по енергетиці, Краматорськ, Слов'янськ, Дружківка, триває відновлення. Хочу відзначити всіх, хто оперативно допомагає людям та здійснює ремонти, заміну джерел енергопостачання. Важливо, щоб всі люди, які потребують підтримки в кожній нашій громаді, щоб необхідну підтримку отримали. Це пряма відповідальність керівників на місцях від обласного рівня до кожного міста, до кожної громади. Ресурси для такої допомоги є. Я очікую більших результатів і від військового командування, тих, хто відповідає за безпілотну складову, захист неба та прикриття північно-східних областей. Були сьогодні доповіді щодо наших цілком справедливих ударів по російських об'єктах, по їхній логістиці, паливному комплексу. Я вдячний нашим воїнам за влучність. Росія обирає війну, Росія руйнує життя наших людей, повинна за це відповідати. Далекобійність наша буде збільшуватись. Росія імпортує бензин, причому в різних географіях, і в Азії, і з Китаю та інших країн, і в Європі, зокрема з Білорусі. Це один з результатів путінської війни. Країна бензоколонка не продає, а імпортує бензин. Це правильні результати наших хлопців і Служби безпеки України, наших Збройних сил України, нашої розвідки, наших українських виробників зброї. Ми формуємо зараз деталі в рішеннях по спільному виробництву зброї з нашими партнерами. Це серйозні рішення з тими, хто допомагає найбільше. Конкретні проекти, конкретна користь для нашої оборони. В перспективі будуть і виробництва, і локалізовані в Україні виробництва, що допомагають захисту неба. Я хочу подякувати партнерам за інтерес до такої роботи з Україною, з нашою промисловістю. І вчора на саміті в Данії, саміті Європейської політичної спільноти, багато було про наші спільні можливості і про те, як і свою безпеку збільшити, і партнерам з безпекою допомогти. Ми готуємо кілька нових санкційних рішень. Це і продовження наших санкцій, термін яких спливав, і запровадження нових санкцій, в тому числі проти компаній та осіб, які працюють для російського оборонного виробництва. Будемо об'єднувати наші санкції з санкціями партнерів, і тиск на Росію буде тільки збільшуватись. Я хочу подякувати всім в світі, хто допомагає нам. Дякую кожному в Україні, хто працює заради нашої держави, нашої незалежності, наших людей. Слава Україні!
And Ram Slava.
Hiram Slava.
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky from this very day of the war in Ukraine and also from the news from around the world. And with that, folks, it's time for us to move on into this second segment of the stream where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And I gotta say that it is one hell of a time. We get to talk about anything except for religion, politics, climate change, or whether the A-10 is relevant or not in combat. And I actually saw someone in a 10-minute countdown ask that question about why in the hell is the A-10 included in that list, and I'll explain why. People are very opinionated, almost to the point that it is like a political or religious standpoint on the A-10. I did not expect that to ever be the case, but it ended up being the case. And so then we had to include that on the list. You wouldn't believe it, but that's actually how it went. There was an argument whether the A-10 was relevant or not in modern warfare, and no matter if you thought it was or wasn't, people got violent about that quick. We received threats about that personally on our own takes on that. Like, that's kind of crazy when you think about it, that people would be that opinionated over a flying airplane, you know? But anyways, beyond that, that's the reason why that's included in the list, in case y'all didn't know. It's a crazy sort of a deal. But anyways, it is time for us to move on into the question segment where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. And boy, howdy, folks. I gotta say that it is one hell of a fun time. And so, Matthew, please take it away. What do we got? What do we got around here?
So everybody likes to talk, they like to talk, they like to talk, I'm telling you. It's time for that segment of the stream, and it's time to jump into our super chat questions, our live chat questions, and our Morse code decoders of the stream. But most importantly, though, I did see a question from Lord Cog. It's a question that many people have been asking tonight. Some say it's the best question that's been asked in the history of questions, but I'm not asking who said that. I'm just simply taking it as fact. But Lord Cog said, any word on the Zaporizhzhia plant, the nuclear situation, because it's still going on, and that's my new chosen name for it, is the ZAP plant. And so far, we have not heard any change. We have not heard any good news, and we've not heard any bad news. So we must assume it's still status quo. There must still be an issue with the generators and also the power supply from the grid. Now, right now, we've not heard it's been reconnected to the grid, and we have not heard of a new fuel supply for the generators. So I would assume that we still have a clock that's currently ticking on that crisis, and we simply haven't gotten an update as of yet. But Enforcer, what have you heard?
That would be the same situation I would know of. We haven't been getting a lot of updates from the area, so we have to assume that the situation was last as we heard, and that the crisis is still ongoing at the moment. It's just that we haven't been getting any updates on it. So I hope that answers that question well, and once we get any updates, folks, I can promise y'all we will be reporting on it as soon as we physically can. It's just that we haven't gotten any at the moment. But with that, I hope that did answer that the best we could, you know? We can only do what we can do around here, folks. Hey, you know, don't put a burner on my ass. We're trying around here. We really are. I'm just playing with you. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to get on into the questions. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping right back into our super chats, our first one here is a very, very generous $100 donation. That's an entire Benjamin note from
Damn.
Patrol, and thank you very much, Patrol, for that very generous support. He said, "Make it 100, make it 100."
Make it 100. Well, aye, sir. Like, I do thank you massively, though, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because that was made 100 indeed. And we thank you incredibly for the support and helping this channel to keep running. Because like we say every night, it's the viewers themselves that keep this channel rolling. We don't have some sort of magic sponsors or any AdSense or ads that are run that help this channel to stay financially viable. It's actually the viewers themselves that crowdfund for the show every night to help us to stay on air and to pay our bills over here. If it wasn't for amazing folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to be on air and say exactly what we want to say, and do exactly what we want to do, and eat how we eat, and live how we live, and think and research what we want to, and to speak how we like. If it wasn't for folks like y'all, none of that would be possible. We would be bound, beholden to some other magical person in the background that would be paying our bills, that would tell us exactly what to say and to do. And that's something I'm not a big fan of, to be entirely honest with y'all. And I got to thank y'all massively for helping us to continue to stay the Enforcer channel and to continue to keep this thing running with y'all's support. And so I got to say, a massive thanks to you once again for the support, Patrol, and make it in 100, because folks like you help this channel to stay at 100. And so with that, a huge thanks to you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Yeah, thankfully we don't have any handlers, so that's a good thing not to have a handler, I would say. Also, no fondlers either. You know, in Hollywood, there's in Hollywood there's those things. There's you have handlers in Hollywood, and then you have fondlers in Hollywood, and it turns out the fondlers usually end up in prison. So you don't want to be that. But anyway,
Matthew, actually, if we were like a part of that whole deal, at some point, folks, we would look over across the table, and there'd be some greasy, fat-looking guy in a suit, and he'd go, "Hey, you want to become famous?" And I'd be like, "No, I don't think I'm good." Like, honestly, I don't need the money or the fame. I'm quite all right where I'm at. Thank you, man. I'm good. And then we just bounce. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So moving into our next one here. This one goes to also, by the way, the reason why I said that, by the way, I know that's kind of random. I heard about a particular individual getting sentenced today. Apparently got somewhere in multi-year ranges. I can't remember the exact sentence that the guy got, but I think everybody knows who I'm talking about. A pretty famous fella there. Well, I won't get into all those allegations, but the whole thing with that, I heard about that today. So that's what brought it up. That's why I was on the brain. But anyways.
I guess you could say he didn't wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy. Ah! But anyways,
Man,
I tell you. Well, anyways, I suppose with that one, I was thinking you're going to pick up right where I left off right there. I was like, I don't think I gave a good enough cue. But with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
I was letting that one marinate. I was doing the silence do the work.
We sat there in silence, and it was like to the whole audience, put that in your pipe and smoke it, like just for like 10 seconds or so. But anyways, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next one here goes to Lord Cog, who puts in a 50. And thank you very much, Lord Cog, for that $50 support. And we appreciate that very, very much. And also, by the way, Lord Cog is proof. You do not have to throw in a super chat to get your question answered. Lord Cog threw in a live chat question. We grabbed it, and then he threw in a super chat. So thank you very much, Lord Cog, for that support. He said it, thank you. Mention the smiley face. And he did. He put in the smiley face.
He put in his stage note. Thank you. Mention the smiley face, close parenthesis. Like, beyond that.
Exit stage right.
Look, we've had about all we can have. Dramatic stare, look at the audience, period. Like, it's a space point. Open sentence. We have had enough of this shit. But anyways, on that, huge thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep rolling. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, Lord Cog, we wouldn't be able to be here today. And also, Matthew, does that mean if we answer live chat questions, we get super chats in like as like response to our addressing of a live chat?
In the case of a very generous Lord Cog, I would say yes in that one instance. And of course, we're very grateful.
Very generous indeed. Very generous. A massive thanks to you. A humongous thanks to you. A very big thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so that a massive thanks to you so much once again. All jokes aside, humongous thanks. And with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
And also, by the way, people were saying 50 months is apparently what the sentence was. I can't remember right off the top of my head, so I'm kind of having to assume that's correct. I can't even remember what the charges were, to be honest with y'all. I know all the rumors that were running around, but I don't even know what the exact charges were against the guy at this point. I just know it was a whole scandal having to do with a certain bad connotation around it. So that's all I know.
I heard, I actually, man, I've been following that story all day. I actually heard, folks, this might actually create an economic recession because the baby oil stocks plummeted today when that came out. I mean, it was crazy. If you went over there and looked at it, it dropped several points like in an hour. I'm just kidding, folks. That actually didn't happen, but that would be funny if it did. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Wantan Quadruple 8. And thank you very much, Wantan, for that support right there. He actually threw in 3 in a row. So grabbing his first one right here, he said, it's not drug cartels. And notice we haven't done that to Mexico, our biggest trading partner. It's Russia and World War III, and Venezuela sided with the enemy.
I would say it's really more so about the Chinese, because the Russians really have nothing in Venezuela. The Chinese are trying to build up economic activities. But I would agree with you for the large part. That's definitely what it's about. It's about curbing foreign influence in the Americas. So that would be what I would think as well. But it's more so curbing the Chinese than the Russians, at least by the economic and political connections or diplomatic connections Venezuela has with the Chinese. But with that, a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Wantan Quadruple 8 once again, who puts in a 20. And a huge shout out to you for the second support. And Wantan said, as someone that loves America, we cannot just punish the sellers of drugs without punishing the buyers of drugs, in their opinion. They said, what's more American than growing a crop, being a man of the land for a product people want to buy? And honestly, let's see, is Wantan, I'm trying to understand what Wantan's saying here. He's saying we cannot just punish the sellers of drugs without punishing the buyers of drugs. I don't know if he's being sarcastic with that, but seriously speaking, though, I would say personally, I don't know. That's a tough one right there. Some people don't know the dangers of drugs when they buy them. They go out and foolishly test it, which you should not do that, by the way. And then they get hooked on them. And then, of course, everybody knows where it goes from there. It turns into addiction. And then they are basically compelled to go buy the drugs because then they're addicted to it. And they develop a dependency on it. So it becomes a problem with that. Me personally, I don't think that people should necessarily be punished in like a a prison sentence for being a drug user, but there should be rehabilitation facilities open for these individuals, and they should want to receive the help. Hopefully, there's some people out there that don't want the help, which, in my opinion, I'm not sure what to do with that, to be honest. Because if somebody doesn't want help, then where does that leave us? With like permanent drug addiction on the streets, which isn't a good thing. But it's a dilemma for sure. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I would, for one, not really be for punishing the users or the buyers that much, because that doesn't really seem to do much. Rather than just massively inflate the amount of incarcerated people we have per 100,000 percentage-wise in the country, it hasn't really done much to stop it. And I'd also have to say that punishing those folks is really a tough thing, because the truth is that there are a lot of goofy people out there who are going to give that sort of a deal a shot. And so it's kind of a tough one. That's kind of like saying folks during the Prohibition era, they deserve to be poisoned by the poisoned alcohol that the government was selling, because they shouldn't have been drinking. Punish the buyer as much as the seller. But I would have to say, me personally, I'm not really a big fan of decriminalizing drugs, because drugs are, for one, incredibly destructive. A lot of people get addicted. Very few of them just end up trying it once or several times and then not get addicted. It's a very addictive and dangerous sort of a substance for that reason. And a lot of people are goofy enough to even try it once. And I don't know what's up with that. Everyone always thinks it's not going to be them, and it's always them, like in every single situation. So I would generally say I don't think we should tax it. I don't think we should deregulate it, because it's going to end up becoming a considerable issue. That's also why we originally banned them, because back in the day, if y'all don't know, back in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, you could go to the store and buy yourself cocaine cough syrup and give that to your newborn baby, and no one would bat an eye. And it ended up becoming such a destructive sort of a deal. That's why the Harold Taft Act was passed in the mid-1910s, was to stop the sale of those types of narcotics, because it was generally known even at that point that it was destructive, and a lot of people would just end up over-consuming to the point of fatal overdoses even back then. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about, is that drugs were rampant in this country up till the 1910s, because they weren't regulated or criminalized in any sort of a way. And it didn't really produce anything positive. So I would have to say I'm not really a huge fan of it. I mean, the weed thing's a whole other thing. A lot of people are across the board on that. Some people are totally fine with it. Some people are still militantly against it. Some people don't care. That's more so domestic political things these days. But I would say that for hard drugs, though, like methamphetamines, heroin, cocaine, those sorts of deals, I would generally support the idea of keeping those as criminal offenses to sell in the country. And while it is a felony offense to use those, I would say that the punishments should not be as severe for the users as the sellers, because the sellers are the ones that are actually poisoning the country, really. It's the users that ended up being goofy enough to try the poison and then get hooked to it in the first place. And
Well,
so,
also people forget you got to be careful with legal medications and drugs too. Like for example, even drugs that you sometimes get prescribed by the doctor, not all of them are perfectly great to take all the time. Like for example, the whole thing with the opioids, that turned out not to be too great, and people got hooked on it, which became a problem. So you got to be careful with any drug. Like people think that there's like a good drug and a bad drug. They've all got very bad downsides, and you have to sort of like weigh the risk versus the benefit to it, and that's what your doctor's supposed to help you with. But I don't understand the people that are like super like raring to go to take any type of medication. It's like, to me, I view medication as something to only take if you have to take it, and not something that should be just taken at will, like just because it's like, oh, here, just have this. It's like, well, do I really need that? It's like, I don't want to take stuff just to take it. And these days it seems like that's a huge thing. Like even legal drugs are just like freely given out, like by medical professionals.
yeah, and also I saw Bubba Vasquez say cocaine cough syrup. Oh yeah, I mean back then it was a crazy time in this country. You could do anything. I mean, hell, you have a toothache. Here you go. Here's an advertisement for cocaine toothache drops. Instantaneous cure. I wonder why. I wonder why. I would wonder. But I mean, this stuff was all over the country back in the day. There's actually a museum up in Arlington near Washington, D.C. That is a museum about these types of narcotics that were just household items back in the day. You can go and look at them all. But it's just absolutely crazy. Like, look at this. throat, pretty much mints like Altoids with menthol, eucalyptus, and cocaine as its main ingredients. I mean, this sort of a deal was common back in the day. I mean, like, it was common to just be prescribed powdered cocaine for some ailments,
Damn.
by
That's
physicians
tough.
back. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
It's like, dang, a dang lozenger with eucalyptus and coke in it. That's not a good combo there.
I mean, look at
Do I
these
see
guys.
chloroform in this?
One night cough syrup, alcohol, cannabis, which is weed, chloroform, and morphia with sulfate. All combined into one
Oh.
concoction. This is literally
One night, that's all you're gonna get.
this is literally the get messed up and die formula, right? The one night cough syrup, because that's all you have left after you take a sip of this one. Right, you're gonna forget how to breathe on this thing. I mean, that's just absolutely insane. But look at this.
Oh, good thing though. Good thing though. Be relieved. Go back to it real quick. Be relieved though at the very top of the list. With alcohol, it's a list less than 1%, so nothing to worry about. It's got less than 1% alcohol in it. So this thing's terrible, man. This is awful.
I mean, it's bad. The merits of our cocaine. Oh my god!
That's like something that the cartels would give out or something like that to people. Be like, here, like it's totally fine. Take a look.
Folks, this is like an endless trip, just laughing at this sort of stuff. But that's how common it used to be. Look at this. Peruvian syrup. Cures
You can't make this crap
dyspepsia, debility, and all diseases of the blood. It's just cocaine. It's just cocaine. That's what it was. It was cocaine in a syrup form. Oh, by the way, I skipped over this one. Coca-Cola, sugar, syrup, and extract for soda water and other carbonated beverages. This intellectual beverage and temperance drink contains the valuable tonic and nerve stimulant properties of the coca plant and cola, cola nuts, and make not only delicious, exhilarating, refreshing, and invigorating beverage dispensed from the soda water fountain or in other carbonated beverages, but a valuable brain tonic and a cure for all nervous afflictions, sick, headache, neuralgia, hysteria, melancholy, etc. The peculiar flavor of Coca-Cola delights every palate. It is dispensed from the soda fountain in the same manner as any of the fruit syrups. From John Pemberton, who was the founder of Coca-Cola. And that was one of the original ads for Coca-Cola, and its main ingredient was the coca leaf. And if y'all know about the coca leaf is also the main ingredient in powdered cocaine. So the same kinds of stimulants that are present in cocaine, in a less concentrated form, are present in coca leaves. So you can see this was extreme. Also, a lot of people always wonder, why in the world did Coca-Cola get popular? It was freaking cocaine. Like, it had coca leaves in it. People were getting pretty good feeling off of drinking the Coca-Cola. And then it was removed because of the Harold Taft Act back in the 1910s. But Coca-Cola got a special exception from the government because of how popular it was, that while it couldn't use raw coca leaf, they could use coca leaf extract, which didn't have any of the good stuff in it. It was just the flavor of the coca leaf extract. And there is a special facility, I believe it is in Delaware or Maryland, and it's the only facility in the country that is approved to import coca leaves to make coca leaf extract for the Coca-Cola company. Just to let y'all know that interesting side fact as well. But yeah, this was a hugely prevalent thing back in the day. And it's also hilarious to read the adverts. Like this one. Syrup Epicac, alcohol 5%. For children in croup, 10 drops of a spoonful every 15 minutes until vomiting is produced. As an expectorant for adults, from 30 drops to a teaspoon every 2, 3, or 4 hours. Literally giving you enough drugs to make you start throwing up. That was the prescription from the doctor in the day. It's just nuts, really, when you read all of these adverts. But anyways, I hope that addressed that well. It's a very weird sort of rabbit hole to go down, but it was as destructive back then as it is now, if y'all don't know. And that's why it was banned back then. And I would generally say that their wisdom back then in banning those drugs in the first place should still hold up today. They banned them with reason. They were openly prevalent in society, and they got rid of them because they were bad. And so, whether the government could make any tax money off of that or not, I feel like there would be an even greater detriment to the tax base because of the rising rate of addictions as a result of that action than any tax revenues could ever benefit from. And not only that, it's not good for the public in its own good for itself, I would say. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. A huge thanks to you, though, for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Wantan Quadruple 8 once again, and he puts in the third $20 support. And thank you very much, Wantan, for that third support. He said, just clearing something up. It's love you guys, and I might have a wildly different opinion on something, and I don't want you guys taking it as an attack. You guys are doing great work and giving us the news, and I'm just an internet guy. And also, by the way, we didn't take any offense to any of it, by the way. Like, yeah, it's totally fine. Like, our thing is we don't like mind people disagreeing with us whatsoever. That's not the thing. People get confused about that. We just don't want people coming in here and taking shots at us. Like, coming in here and calling us idiots or something crazy like that just because we disagree. Like, we actually welcome people to disagree because that creates good conversation. And that's something we like. But thank you very much, Wantan. And Enforcer, what say you?
Thank you so much for the support as well, Wantan. I have to agree. There's no problem with people disagreeing with us. Well, of course, we'll still disagree with you and probably even bring it up and talk about it for a second, but there's no problem at all with that. Like, the one thing that I will say, though, is that some people take that and then they use that to take shots. Like earlier when we were talking about the whole thing with the radical Islamic groups and why religious extremism is more so the issue and not a particular religion, some people then wanted to say in the chat, I saw like one or two people, they're like, well, you're not a real Christian. I'm like, well, that's a really offensive shot to take. And it's also like, I don't even understand why in the world that should be said. Like, I don't know, like, it's the weird thing to me, and this is kind of like the problem with society these days, is that it's totally fine to disagree, but it's a totally different thing to start attacking someone because you disagree with them. Like, if you're a Christian and you see a Muslim, why in the world would that elicit a violent response in people? That's what I don't get. Like, to them is their own. If they want to be a Muslim, they're a Muslim, and that's what it is. And much like you're a Christian, they have no right to try and force Islam on you. I think that's what a lot of people don't get. Or if someone's a Democrat, they're a Democrat. If you're a Republican and you don't like that, I mean, that's your personal opinion, but they can do whatever the hell they want. And if you're a Democrat and you don't like a Republican, what the hell's wrong with you? They can do whatever they want. I mean, you might not agree with their opinions, but why in the world are you trying to act like you got to force your own beliefs onto that other person? It just doesn't make any sense. That's kind of where the issue lies when people do have a criticism of us. Some people are very immature with criticisms, and they don't know how to just disagree and voice their issue. They have to make it into an attack because they disagree with someone. And that's where the issue lies. But beyond that, just disagreeing with us, there's no problem with that at all. It's just that when people take shots at us or try and, like, deliberately go out of their way to just try and insult us in a disagreement, that's where the issue is. But still, a huge thanks to you so much for the support. And I hope that does address that well, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this thing running and make this thing possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to Zyper Sniper 1, who puts in a 20, and thank you everyone, Zyper Sniper, for that $20 support, and we do appreciate that very, very much. And he said, coffee fund for the Enforcers. And Enforcer, did you know that Train Sim World 6 just came out on the 30th of September, and are you going to get it? And also, question to the chat, please.
And that is a great question. And the answer is no. I'm not going to get involved in the whole controversy with that, but I have bought all of the Train Sim Worlds up till this one. And I am really, like, me personally, I'm just going to speak on my personal behalf on this. Me personally, I'm getting kind of tired of how they're releasing a new Train Sim World, and you have to buy that one, whether you want the new routes or not, to be able to get access to the other routes. And to be entirely honest, I would say that Train Sim World, while graphically is way better than Train Sim Classic, it doesn't really have the kind of soul or the depth that Train Sim Classic feels like it has. Like, even with, like, the 24-hour simulated timetables and everything, it just doesn't really feel like authentic, at least to me. And so I didn't get it. That's like the first one I'm not getting. And I would be honest, I think this ought to be the last Train Sim World. They ought to just do it like Train Sim Classic and just keep releasing new routes. Because I feel like it's almost like a way at this point for them to just force you to pay them $50 a year nearly at this point, just so that way you can potentially get access to the new routes that you might want to get. Because now that they've come out with Train Sim World 6, there was this huge thing I was waiting for, which was the Santa Fe pack that was going to come out for the KOM Pass. and it was going to have all of the Santa Fe, I think it's the Dash 9s and the SD40s and stuff for that route, and I was waiting for that on Train Sim World 5, and from what I understand now, that's only going to come out for Train Sim World 6, and so if I want to get that DLC, I have to pay $50, and then probably another 20 on top of that for Train Sim World 6, and then that additional DLC. And so I personally didn't get it. I just started going back into Train Sim Classic. But still, a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. But that's just my personal 2 cents on the whole Train Sim World 6 thing. I did hear that a lot of people like the Morristown route, though, and that's pretty neat, and I thought the Morristown route was pretty cool. But also, me personally, I don't really want to get the German and the British route as well, because that's included in that cost, because I personally have started to move heavily back into American railroading, and so, paying $50 for 3 routes, and 2 of them I'll guarantee never use, I don't know. It stings me in a way where I wouldn't want to get it. But still, I hope that does address it the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for the support and helping the channel to keep on running. And also, I saw Chris say, "Damn it, Andrew, you buy game, you play game, have fun." Yeah, I want to have fun, but at the same time, I don't want to just like blow money every year on a new Train Sim world. And on top of that, like Train Sim Classic, when they release a new route, you don't have to go spend like an extra $50 to update the game to be able to get access to the new routes. The new routes just come out and you can get them. And also they're cheap. Like they're very cheap compared to the Train Sim World routes. Like me personally, recently, I will say this. I did get Train Sim Classics Smokebox Big Boy, which, let me see here. Smokebox Big Boy, Train Sim. Let me show you all that. Like, I got this recently, which is like the most detailed big boy I think that's out there in the gaming world right now, and it's really cool. And I mean, you can get it. It was released, I think, in 2021, and you can still play it 5 years later. You didn't have to buy a whole new Train Sim to be able to play it or get it or anything like that. That's my personal 2 cents on it. I mean, I have fun with Train Sim World. It's just that I don't want to spend another $50 to practically update the thing. But still, a big thanks to you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, I'm just waiting for GTA 6, but like I said in the chat, by the time I get to play GTA 6, I'll probably be in the draft by that point. So I'll just play it in the Connex box one of these days. I'll put the Xbox in there and play it like they always do on the front. Or not the front, but just in the battlefield. But anyways, jumping into our next one here. This one goes to Interstate Chef. And thank you. Well, also, by the way, we got to get to the live chat for Zyper real quick.
Yeah.
I'll get right back to Interstate Chef. But Zyper asked for that live chat. And this one goes to Railty, who said, "What happened with the ghost ship and their ops far more south?" And also, I think he's talking about that special ops ship that's hanging out around Venezuela.
It's hanging out in the U.S. Virgin Islands right now. Specifically, let's see. Here's the U.S. Virgin Island. It's hanging out at a pier. It's this one right here, actually, at Frederiksted, right here. And that's where it's currently hanging out. It hasn't gone underway again yet. It's just sitting there and waiting to see what's going to happen. So that's what we know at the moment. So a huge thanks to you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are going to be moving on into also, let's see, someone said, is there a train mechanic mod involved? No, they're not in Train Sim Classic or Train Sim World, but I did hear of something that is really getting me excited. I'll show this one really quickly on air for the people who may be the train game aficionados, and I'm sure many of y'all have already heard of it because this one's an upcoming one that's really popular with a lot of folks, and it's Century of Steam. And let me see if I can show y'all like a good picture of this. I'll make this a little bit short, but it's coming out here in the future. I think it's like within the next year or two, but it looks great. It's mostly narrow gauge railroading. I wish there was a game that did this, but it was standard gauge, but that's beyond the point. This thing looks like it's going to be really well made and really well done. It's made by a lot of people who are really enthusiastic about railroading. So that one's one that I'm really looking forward to, and I think there's going to be some sort of a repair mechanic in the game because there is like wear and tear and maintenance involved, at least in operating these. So I think there's going to be like some sort of a maintenance mechanic in the game, but I don't know about that for sure. But I think that's the closest it'll get, at least for now. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so this one goes to Interstate Shelf, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, good sir, as well, for that support. He said, good evening, enforcers. And do you think the cartels are smuggling underwater? And check out the Alaska Railroad, also the Dr. Seuss House Alaska, LLT and best news on the internet.
Oh,
And also to answer that first part of the question real quick, I think the cartels are smuggling underwater. We do know they have semi-submersibles. We see that from time to time. The Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard will raid those. They literally skim right at the surface of the water, and they paint the tops where they sort of blend in with the ocean, so you can barely see it from the sky. But they probably do smuggle underwater. They probably have those sketchy like narco subs and like ones that actually can go underwater by like 5 or 10 feet, from what I've heard. But Enforcer, what say you?
They actually do, and there was one that was in Spain, because believe it or not, folks, the cartels in America don't just ship primarily to America. Some of their submarines actually make the long and arduous voyage all the way across the Atlantic to places like Portugal and Spain to drop off their drugs. And I'm trying to see if I can find the one that actually, yeah, here we go. This is it. Let's see here. I just want to make sure that this is the one, and this should be it. Y'all can actually see this one right here. And if I remember correctly, this was actually one of the legitimate submarines that was submersible, not low visibility like most of them are. Like, let's see, this one. This is not a submarine. This is technically a low visibility vessel, or an LVS, and they're not submersible or even semi-submersible. They just have an incredibly low profile on the water, and due to that reason, it's really hard to spot them with the naked eye. So, beyond that, however, there are a couple of real submarines that we have seen that have been captured by special forces, like this submarine, which is a legitimate submersible, and can actually dive at least a little bit. So they definitely are smuggling through these submarines. We just don't know how many of them are there. Their operations are incredibly stealthy, and also due to the fact that they're traveling underwater, it's pretty much impossible for us to detect them unless we used conventional anti-submarine warfare sorts of tactics by the U.S. Navy against them. But they certainly are using these. It's just that we don't know how many of them there are, how frequent their trips are, and how much cargo is actually being dropped off or unloaded on every single voyage. We just don't really know a lot about them. But they do exist. So I hope that does address it the best I can, at least from what I would know at the moment. But a huge thanks to you so much for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, by the way, he wanted you to take a look at the Dr. Seuss house in Alaska.
Oh, yeah. And the Alaska Railroad. Let's see. The Dr. Seuss house. Is this it? Oh, it is. The Goose Creek Dr. Seuss house. Huh. Look at that. It's a Dr. Seuss house. Huh. That's
You know,
wild.
I hate to say it, kind of odd opinion. I was never a huge fan of Dr. Seuss, to be honest with you. I thought Dr. Seuss was overrated.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I kind of agree. That might be a hot take, but I agree, honestly. I wasn't really a big fan of Dr. Seuss. I thought the books were kind of like, I don't know, odd. Like, I don't know how to describe it. We're about to get canceled. But anyways, beyond that, the Alaska Railroad. What a cool railroad. It's actually one that was formed by the U.S. government. And that's kind of rare, actually. Usually the government will give a charter for a railroad, but very rarely do you ever create a railroad, pretty much by the U.S. government. But pretty cool one. It's entirely contained in Alaska, and there is no greater connection, I think, to the Canadian railroads or the U.S. railroads, so all of the rail cars have to be ferried in or out of the country by railroad ferries to get here. So that's a really interesting fact about the Alaska Railroad. And also, I like their paint jobs. They look really cool. So with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. There you go. There's some of the rail cars in current service today, along with a caboose, although they don't use those anymore. They use EOTDs. But beyond that, I hope that does address it the best I can. Big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Wantan Quadruple 8 once again. He puts in a 20, yes, yet again, a yes again. And thank you very much, Wantan, for that $20 support, and we do appreciate that very, very much. I think that's the fourth one. He said, one thing we can't forget, wars are won by pride, togetherness, and camaraderie, and there's a reason why the U.S. couldn't beat Pancho Villa, and just how Russia can't beat Ukraine. It's not always about military power. That's 100% true, by the way, Plantan. That is true. I actually mentioned that about a week ago when we were talking about Venezuela, and I was mentioning that the U.S. soldiers might not be totally motivated to go down there and do something like an invasion of Venezuela because it's not something that hinges on the entire survival of the United States. It's something that's more of like a side quest, I guess you could say. I'm not trying to minimize the whole thing. It's quite a serious deal to invade a country, but for the U.S., it's like going off on a side quest or something, which is not really necessary in my personal opinion. And the U.S. military might not be super motivated about it because it's not something that is a dire for the United States. So that's what I think. But Enforcer, what say you?
To make it in line with Dr. Seuss to gain back some Seuss creds, I can't Maduro because you can't enduro. Call me
Oh!
Dr. Seuss. We're up in the house. Oh my god! But anyways, with that, beyond that, I would have to say, Nathan, can you reread the question?
He was saying that wars are won by pride, togetherness, and camaraderie.
That's true to an extent. I would agree with that. But a big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible and keep this thing rolling. And so with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And folks, you're looking at the brand new Dr. Seuss. Call me Dr. Enforcer. And I do not have any medical credentials. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Sam1234, who puts in the 20. And thank you very much, Sam. He said, Hamas's response to Israel says they'll play a major role in rebuilding and governing the Strip at the very end, so people miss it like you did. But one of the major points of the plan is that Hamas would not be an organization anymore.
But it did say, though, in that statement by Hamas that they would still be an existent body and govern in the Gaza Strip, in a sense, in this new governance. So, maybe that's the case. Hopefully that would be the case, but I don't think Hamas would agree to that, me personally, because their IRGC handlers most likely wouldn't allow it. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And a big thanks to you once again for helping this channel to keep on rolling. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. And also, by the way, let's see here. Also, I see people still mentioning this. I don't personally want to bring it back up, but I got to bring it up because there's Twitter posts about it now, and also people have mentioned in the chat that 31 Atlas thing, the thing they're alleging that could be some type of alien rock going through space or alien spacecraft or something like that, the comet that's running around. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They're saying that, or at least they're alleging, that all Mars and Jupiter spacecraft are observing the comet right now, and the data is due to come back in 1 to 2 days. So people are over the top, thinking they're about to get some type of alien intel or something like that. I personally don't see anything with it personally, just from my layman's knowledge. So I would be shocked about that, but I see people still thinking that maybe the current volatility in the world is because maybe they're about to release something like that. But I don't think so. Me personally, I'm not a huge alien type person to think the aliens are going to show up or something. I just don't believe it's going to happen. It would be too good to be true right now for the aliens to show up. But Enforcer, what say you?
Man, everyone's getting hyped up because in 1 or 2 days it's going to come out. It's a rock, and everyone's going to be like, "Damn it!" Like they're going to be like, "Hey, we were putting our whole year on this thing. We thought it was going to be something crazy. It's going to end up being a giant rock, everyone. That's what it's going to be. It's not a spaceship. Because there's been loads of rocks out there. There's lots of rocks that float around in space. This just happens to be another one. No aliens. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm saying that there's a 1% chance it's an alien, 99% chance it's just a big rock. And I would assume that's probably just a very big rock. But that's what I'm thinking. But
Honestly, the people want something. People want something to be true because this was my theory. When people start getting way too stressed out and freaked out because they see the tensions around the world going to the maximum right now, and it's not anything new. Literally, once the Ukraine war started, the world went geopolitically crazy. So it's been wild for years now, but it's getting definitely more wild over the last 6 months or so. It's gotten exponentially more severe when it comes to a geopolitical sense. So naturally, in my opinion, people start looking for distractions or some type of way to take their mind off of it. And what better way to take your mind off of it than to think that aliens are coming to Earth and that they're somehow going to save everybody in the midst of all this hell that's going on? That's my theory. I think people are wanting something like that to be true, so that way they can hopefully have some hope that something's going to change. I think that's what's going on.
I would have to be honest with you, that's probably the case. And Bubble Vasquez said, "Do you think we are the only aliens in this galaxy?" Well, as far as we can tell, yeah. I mean, they haven't found any clear signs of life on any of the planets out there, at least observable by telescope. So I'd assume if they're out there, they're so far away, they don't know we're here, and we're so far away, we don't know they're there. That's what I'm thinking personally. Because, I mean, with the infinitesimal length of the universe, it would be statistically impossible that there isn't some other form of life out there somewhere. I mean, like, if you think about it, there are hundreds of millions of stars, and it's a limitless number. It's almost an infinite number. And with that, there has to be hundreds of billions, if not trillions of planets. And because of that, there has to be one of them that also is in the Goldilocks zone somewhere and has supported some form of life and has had all of the elements necessary to produce life like it is here. But it is so far away, it's not even in the same galaxy, most likely. It's probably in multiple galaxies over from us. And as far as that is concerned, at least on a cosmic scale of a sense, it would be impossible for those people to know that we're here, and it'd be impossible for us to know that they are there. So that would be my 2 cents on it. Like I would believe that they're out there, but as far as I'm concerned, they're neither here nor there, and we're never going to see them in our lifetimes. We might never see them ever. I mean, humanity might end before we ever even find out that they were a thing. Like, and then, that life just keeps going on for the rest of them, wherever they are. That would be what I'm thinking. But
Yeah, me
anyways,
personally, it could be that whole thing. You know how people were saying they were going to project alien spacecraft in the sky to send people into pandemonium and cause them to go berserk and crazy, so that way a dictator could take over the world or something like that. That was a theory going around too. But it could be maybe the aliens are coming here to tell us that the list isn't real. They could be here with the proof that the list isn't real. That might be what they're here to tell us. They might open the door and be like, the list is not a real. Forget the list. So it could be something like that. You never know.
and also let me show you all this, folks. This is something that's crazy. The Milky Way, which is the galaxy we are in, this one, it is 106,000 light years across. So if you turned on a flashlight right now in space and you aimed it out to the edge of the galaxy from one end to the other, it would take 106,000 years for that beam of light to travel all the way across the galaxy and reach the other end. And that's just our galaxy. And there are endless amounts of them out there. Like if you look at the nearest galaxy, how many light years is it away? Let me pull that up for y'all. How many light years away is, let's see, how many light years away is the closest galaxy? It is located about 25,000 light years away. Actually, sorry, no. The closest galaxy to us is 2.5 million light years away. So if they are out there, they're not in our galaxy, because we pretty much looked at just about everything that we can, from what I know, that is in this galaxy. And from what we can tell pretty easily, most of the planets do not really have any chance of supporting life. And I think there's only like 7 that may possibly support life. 5 of those are highly unlikely. And I think 2 of them are possible. Like it's not even like a definite certainty. So if they're not here, they're in the next galaxy over, or in some other galaxy beyond that. And at the minimum, the closest that they can be is 2.5 million light years away. So unless if they are the most advanced that we could ever imagine, and they are literally able to cover millions of light years in a matter of a couple of years or just a couple of months, they'll never know we're over here. They'll never even come over here, and we'll never be able to make it over to them. It's just an impossibility, at least at the moment.
Hot take. I think if aliens were real, and if aliens turn out to be real, and one day they reveal that, which I have my doubts about that, but if they did reveal that one day, my guess is if they exist, they're probably already here. That would be my guess. Because if they have the ability to come here, then why would they have not interacted with someone already? Why are they staying completely separate and not interacting with the world they're studying at all? Why? And also, we don't know if they're trying to study the world or not. They might be trying to show up and destroy the place. We don't know what they're up to. That's the thing. It's like it's a bunch of conspiracies right now. It's all it is. So they could be in charge of our tech companies right now. I've seen a lot of people that don't drink water quite right. So it could be they could be here already developing glasses with displays in them. You never know.
And also another thing, like just continuing on with this, because it's an interesting thing to talk about. If they are that advanced, like just to put this out there, if they have an energy source and a form of propulsion so advanced that they can cover that 2.5 million light year expanse in a matter of months or weeks, which would be an insane amount of energy and an insane propulsion system that they would have technologically far beyond what we can even imagine, why in the world would they ever want to interact with us in any way? There would be nothing on the singular planet alone that would be able to help them out. Whether it's us, whether it's the resources here, whether it's the plant life here, none of that would matter to them. I mean, think about it, folks. Think about the amount of energy it takes for one satellite to go in orbit on this planet. It is an insane amount of energy. If y'all ever look into the energy that's exerted by a rocket in its first stage or second stage that's heading into an outer orbit, it is a lot of force. It is a lot of power, and that's hardly even to get close. It's not even at all close to getting to the speed of light. Now imagine going past the speed of light by a multitude of a factor of thousands to be able to travel from one galaxy to the next. Whatever kind of a propulsion system with that kind of an amount of energy inside of it or an ability, that civilization and that group of people is so far beyond us technologically, there is no benefit in even reaching out to us or talking to us at that point. What would there be to gain? What would there be to learn? That's what I would say. So I don't even know why in the world they would be down here or interacting with us, or at that point, why they would even keep it secret. It's not like they're scared of us. It's not like they're wanting to protect us. I mean, they could either bring us into the greatest times we've ever seen, or destroy us in the blink of an eye with that kind of energy available to move one spacecraft that far that fast. So that's why I'm.
Although you would assume if a race or if like a group of a different like life form or something like that does exist, and they're smart enough to create interplanetary space travel, you would think they'd be smart enough to know that our society is extremely fragile, and that if they showed up here and then let the average person know that they were real, that would probably give the green light for like pretty much the entire 8 billion people on Earth to pretty much lose their shit basically all at once, and it'll probably destroy the whole place if people found that out. That's not science fiction. That's just truth. Like, people can't handle something like that like upsets their entire worldview like that. It would upset so many things from people's religious perspectives. It would upset their societal perspectives. It would also disrupt the geopolitical standing of powers around the world, because then the United States is not the top dog anymore. Now it's whoever this is that showed up as a top dog. So it would destroy the whole fabric of the world essentially if they revealed that, if they were real.
I would doubt that, because that's removing the factor that everyone has to show up to work tomorrow to pay their bills and keep getting by. So while they may exist, it doesn't change the day-to-day life of anyone else on the planet. Like, if they just showed up and were like, "Hey, we're real," and then they left. Because, think about it, when folks like for example, like this is a significant enough technological gap. Like when the Europeans showed up in America for the first time, like Christopher and Columbus and so on. If y'all don't know, the Aztecs and the Incas that ran into the original explorers that came over from Europe, they actually thought that they were gods, at least the first time, because the prophecy stated that they would arrive on clouds coming over from the ocean, and the large sails of their ships kind of looked like clouds. So a lot of them thought that these people were actually gods, and it didn't really change much of anything. They were just like, oh, they arrived, and everyone kept working, because you don't have a choice. So I think if they showed up, it would almost be the same sort of a thing to us. We just, oh, they showed up, that's wild, and then we would just keep on working, because it's not like everyone just gets to defer on their rent, or not show up to work for the next few weeks and let everything collapse. Everyone's got to keep working. Everyone's got to keep their heads down and keep grinding on in life to get by. So it's not really like it would give everyone the room to create some sort of chaos, really.
But it only takes a small percentage of people to go crazy, though, to like collapse a society. Like, you don't have to have everybody in the country. Like, for example, the United States. For the United States society to collapse, if only like 5% of the people decided to go berserk, that would probably be enough to collapse the country. Like, that's how it would work. But if enough people like decide, I can't take this, I'm just going to run home and hide in my house, I'm not going to work, I'm not doing this, that, and another, because my whole worldview has been upset. Well, that's enough to disrupt the system at that point. So you've created a massive problem. And then also from a geopolitical level, could you imagine if the U.S. is not the top dog anymore, and there's a new person on the block with bigger powers that could be military strength, then all the powers around the world are going to be vying for that one group's support, whoever that would be. They're going to be begging whoever this is to side with them, so that way they can go against the other powers. It's not going to suddenly create world peace all of a sudden. People are still going to hate the other group. It's not going to change that. So it would really mess things up quite a bit. But they could be hiding in plain sight. You never know. They could be in the ocean. They could be on in the government. They could be on a YouTube channel. You never know.
You never know. I mean, it's a possibility. It's a real possibility, folks. You got to think about that. It's not like, man, it's about turning to that Twilight Zone episode where that guy came back into the diner and he was like, "Hey, you're not wet." And he's like, "What's wet?" "I'm from Jupiter," or some stupid stuff like that. And he's like, "We caught your fleet," and then he like took off his cap and he had a third eye. It was a really cheap looking like prosthetic eye. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best we can. But in my personal opinion, folks, if they are out there, they're so far away they may as well not even exist, and they probably have no ability to get to us. That's my personal 2 cents on it. And if it is an alien spaceship and they don't have the ability to travel past the speed of light, everyone on board that thing is long dead. To the point we won't be able to reap anything information-wise from that object, whatever it is. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one here goes to none other than Danny B. And thank you very much, Danny, for that $50 support right there. And we do appreciate that. And it's good to see you once again. And he said, good evening, Enforcers. It's Chef Danny here, and just finished with work. And in your opinions, what's the timetable with the U.S. to invade Venezuela and LOTLOSA? Honestly, for me, Danny, I would say, unfortunately, we're going to be off the air around the later end of October. We're going to say the exact dates coming up here very soon, but it's going to be near the end of October. Honestly, I think that's when the Venezuela invasion, if one's going to happen, that'll probably be around the time when it actually kicks off, which is very unfortunate for us because we'd like to be here to cover that. So the timing usually ends up very bad. Usually when we're off the air for big things to happen. I don't know why it works that way, but it seems to happen like that. So maybe toward the very end of October would be my guess. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to take a similar assumption, to be entirely honest. It's going to happen within the next month for sure. Well, not for sure, but high likelihood that it'll happen. Saying anything in absolutes, folks, is a deadly mistake. Never say anything in absolutes, just give high certainties. But with that, I hope that that's addressed it the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And a big shout out to Lil Donut, who put in another 20. And thank you very much, Lil Donut, for that support. And also a big shout out to Melody Myers, who put in a 20 as well. And we appreciate you, Lil Donut and Melody, for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta thank the both of y'all. Y'all didn't throw in comments, but we were massively appreciative of y'all's support and helping this channel to keep running. Because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it rolling. And so a massive thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well to the both of you. And also, I see some people still talking about the alien stuff, whether they're real or whether they're not. And I'll tell y'all a little bit of my personal opinion on stuff with that, like, as to how I come to my conclusion. It doesn't really mean a hill of beans to me. I don't really care about much of anything if I don't have a daily interaction with it, like in that sort of a degree. Like, are ghosts real? I don't really care. I've never run into one. So if they're real, I've never run into one. And if they're not real, they're just not real, and I've never run into one anyways. Are aliens real? I mean, are they or are they not? I mean, you know, does it matter? I mean, is it going to change anything in my life if they're real or not? Not really. So, you know, I could speculate all day and be like, oh, maybe they're real, maybe they're not, but it's not going to change much of anything to me. And so for that reason, it's just not something I think about a lot or get excited about too much. And it's like that with everything, you know, it's like, that's generally how I go about that sort of stuff, like on the speculation side of things, because if it's not something that is in front of you that you can just empirically prove one way or the other, and it's just kind of a pie in the sky sort of a thing, why even get too excited about it, you know? And also, is it really going to impact you too much if a ghost was real or not? Not really.
Yeah, I get a little worried though, because you know everybody says that aliens, some people call aliens grays. I'm like, grays. I'm like, what are they, commies or something? I'm like, it wasn't the commies' favorite color gray? It's like, where are these people's like political standings? Where do they lie here? It's like we don't want commies, you know, coming in on spaceships and stuff like that. We've already had plenty of them in Russia before, so we don't want that again. But
Bro,
honestly,
you're gonna end up like that guy at the end of Planet of the Apes. you damn animals! So like, you know, when they show up and they're communists, you ruined it. Honestly, dude, if aliens are communist, folks, we're in for a rough time. Like, we're in for a real rough time around here.
I'll tell you what, they're going to come in talking about that universal basic income and that whatchamacallit, that free healthcare. Honestly, that would be too bad, but you know, maybe they can help fund it a little bit. Maybe they can bring a little cash with them. If the Grays come with briefcases of cash, they might be able to just buy the government off.
Oh my God. That would become the biggest lobby in America. Oh no! Oh no!
Step aside one particular country that likes to lobby the hell out of every U.S. politician. There's a new person on the block. They don't have to register as a foreign agent.
Oh my goodness, man! What in the hell would they even call that super PAC right there? Man, I can think of so many names.
They'd call it ET PAC.
No, man, they call it Alien PAC. There's something like that.
I tell you what.
Oh my God! So that we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to none other than Philip Harrison. And thank you very much, Philip, for that 20. He said, sending from the UK, specifically South Shields and LTLSA. And yours are the only regular reports we hear from the European situation in reference to the Russian-Ukrainian activity. So thank you, and Slav Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the kind words, and also being all the way from the UK, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And I gotta say, huge thanks to you so much for the support and enjoying this channel and helping it to keep running and helping it to be possible and helping us to make this thing a reality. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we would never have been able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running. So a massive, tremendous thanks to you for the kind words and the compliments, because it helps us to keep this channel running, so we can continue to tell the world that aliens aren't real, because we can't let people know that just yet. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Nathan Ringerwall. And thank you very much, Nathan, for that 20. And he said, Ukraine has done a fantastic job hitting refineries and other important Russian infrastructure with what they have. And what's left to hit without the Tomahawk or longer range weapon systems?
It's not really about hitting anything new. It's about keeping up the frequency of the attacks and also the damage, and also increasing the amount of damage, which will keep these refineries on a downtime for longer. That's really what this is about. More so is sustainment rather than the creation of new operations, and that's why the Tomahawks would be pertinent. And so with that, a big thanks to you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep rolling. I hope that does address that quite well. And also, I saw someone say something crazy, man. I don't know if you saw it. Hold up, I gotta find it. It was hilarious, actually. Where was it? Someone said, Drewpocalypse, you're the reason why aliens will never come here. They're scared of you. Like, they're scared of you particularly. I cannot read off what he said on air, Matthew, but go and read it. And it's like, bro, that's why they ain't showing up. They're scared that there's going to be people hitting on them. They're going to be like, so, you single? And it's like, oh my God. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. So our next one here is going to go to, let's see here. It's going to go to Slow Roast Jenna, last name Tolls. And thank you very much for that 20, by the way. They said, getting sus in here, trying to steer us away from aliens. To cover up the aliens themselves are alien? I'm on to you guys. Honestly, if I was an alien, I'll tell you what, I would have to like hop on that little boat or that little ship, and I would have to like head out. If I was an alien, I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably like head out and go hang out somewhere else if I had that ability at this point. So you're not on to nothing. But Enforcer, what say you?
Listen, I gotta be honest with you. We can't let people know that whole thing yet. That's also why we don't show our face on air. We have to put on like a whole bodysuit. It's a whole deal. It's tough. But beyond that, I gotta say, like, you know, if we were aliens, why are we having to pay our bills doing this show? Like, we could just stay real low key. We could stay low key, and we're definitely not low key. So if we're aliens, that'd be a tough one. But honestly, you did hit it on the nail. We are aliens. But legal? Like, legal? That is. But still, a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running. And we wouldn't be able to keep on pushing forward the idea that aliens aren't real. So that way people will end up being more susceptible to the propaganda that we put out. And also, on top of that, why do you think I know so much about the history of the planet? I am a major of human histories. Back on my planet where I come from. You know, that's why I know so much about all these folks around here and all these different countries.
All right, now you're getting into schizo territory. You're getting into schizo.
Man, my eyes, they're bionic eyes. Man, I saw like a police body cam, to give you all a reference to that one there real quick, where some guy had like, it was a pipe bomb or something like that, and it went off in a hotel, and the cops got him, and he's butt naked, and they're dragging him outside, and the whole time he's yelling that his eyes are bionic. It was the craziest thing I'd ever seen. The guy was schizophrenic, like, extremely. They put him, I think, in a mental institution in Kentucky for life. But that guy was nuts. Like, he well deserved to go to a mental institution for the rest of his life as a result of what he did. But the guy was insane, like legitimately insane. If y'all find the body cam on YouTube, y'all will know what I'm talking about. But that was the craziest thing that I had seen recently from a police body cam. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to OK State 42, who puts in a 10. He said, Enforcers, I'm interested to know both of your food tastes, favorite and least favorite foods, and favorite fast food places. And thanks for your excellent work you do daily. LSA rules and carry on. Honestly, my favorite food, favorite fast food, that is, If I can find a Chipotle that does the food good, I say Chipotle. I like those type places that like do the bowl. Some people call it slop. I call it good personally. I like it. And also you get a lot of it, so you can like split it up and eat it throughout the day, which I like that too. Because I'm lazy and just want to pick it up one time. So that's generally what I like for fast food. I try to avoid the stuff like McDonald's and stuff like that. I do eat it from time to time, but I know it's probably not the best when it comes to like trying to be healthy. So I try to avoid it. But mainly the healthier fast food places, if that's even such a thing. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say that my favorite type of food, that's a really tough one because honestly, I'm not really particular about food in either way on a lot of things I dislike or a lot of things I really like. Honestly, I take food as it comes. Like if it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it doesn't really bother me too much. I can really eat just about anything, and so that's a really tough one to answer because of that. I mean, maybe my favorite food would be like a good pizza, maybe. And my least favorite food would be um, I mean, honestly, there's just not really any food that I just despise a great deal. At least I can think of. So I'd have a really hard time telling you a food I didn't like. Maybe, hmm, I just can't really think of anything that's revolting, honestly. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't really come up with a least favorite food. I guess, well, no, I mean, maybe my least favorite food would just be fast foods in general, because they always taste like acidic to some extent. Like if you eat it enough, you start to like taste this acidity that kind of like leaches off of them. I'm thinking it's the preservatives. Maybe that would be my most unfavorite thing, but beyond that, I don't really have like particular favorites or least favorites. But still, I hope that does address that well, at least the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Avian Noise, who puts in a 10. And he said, thank you for everything you guys do. And LSA, I've been tuning in for the past 18 months. And do you guys think this whole thing's going to go nuclear?
I don't think it's going to go nuclear for now. I don't really want to call the nuclear thing until we're like right on the cusp of a tactical nuclear weapon being used on the conventional battlefield. So I think we're pretty good ways away from it, hopefully. But I do thank you so much for watching for so long, and I thank you for helping this channel to keep rolling as well. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep this channel running, and we wouldn't be able to make it possible. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that I was addressed that well. And I see that Bobby43 has started a discussion in the chat. Bobby43 said, I hate fish. And people are weighing in whether they hate fish or not. And I'm seeing some people saying, I like them. Some people are saying, I hate them. Me personally, I'm indifferent to them. The one thing I don't like, though, about fish is the little fragile bones that they have. And sometimes, you got to be very careful eating fish, because if you swallow one of those, you're going to choke. And that's the one thing I don't like about most fish. But fried catfish is amazing, though. I will say fried catfish is the fish. That is a great fish to have.
You gotta love it. And if you the trick with fish is to douse it with lemon, like the real lemon, not that junk out of the bottle, but like a real lemon, and squeeze a lemon all over it, and then also dunk it into the cocktail sauce. At that point, you've got a whole new thing on your hands. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean that's really really good. But I would have to say some fish are really good just normal. But usually you have to do a lot to a fish to make it tasty, because honestly, fish kind of tastes like nothing. It's kind of just like meat matter that comes off of most fish. Like in my opinion, it doesn't really taste like much of anything. So you really got to do something to a fish to make it taste good. But with that, I hope that has addressed it the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Blasma, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much for that support, by the way. And also a big shout out to Slow Roast Agenda, last name Tolls yet again, who puts in a 10. They said, code red. I just ate tacos today.
Red alert, the nuclear bombers are flying. Calling the red alert, they're sending out the nuclear codes. Oh my god. I gotta be honest with you, Taco Bell can do it to some people. It personally doesn't do it to me, but a lot of people say that. But I do thank you for the support, and I gotta say, God bless your soul, because Taco Bell certainly isn't. So with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I did think about one food I never will eat. It's surströmming, that fish in the can that smells really, really, really bad. I will never even smell, look at it, or even touch a can of that junk. I don't even want to see it.
Yeah, I don't even think that's really a food. I think that's like some sort of like a tourist attraction, literally eat the crap and die sort of a deal. I think that's that. I don't even think that's a real food.
Now, I think some people actually eat that, like legit. Like I think people actually eat that there. It's like a tradition.
Do people actually eat? We're gonna have to pull that up. Actually eat surströmming. It's enjoyed by hundreds of thousands of Swedes each year.
Yeah, see, I told you.
And some people really enjoy its rich umami taste.
Ugh. Yeah, umami. I don't know if that's the word for it. I don't even know what the hell umami means, but it doesn't sound like it describes it right.
What does umami taste mean?
Umami.
Let's see. Sweet, sour, bitter, and salty, often described as savory, meaty, or brothy flavor that is complex, satisfying, and provides mouthwatering sensation. I've never heard anyone describe surströmming like that in my life. Everyone describes it as a bioweapon, so like, I'm kind of doubting that description of surströmming. But anyways, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to KY Prepper, Kentucky Prepper, who put in a 10. They said, red alert, red alert.
But still, big thanks to you for the support and helping this channel to keep running. And I gotta say, I thank you massively for the support. And with that, some people are dissing on sardines. I mean, honestly, I get that though. But anyways, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Lambo, who puts in a 10. And thank you, Lambo, very much for that support. And they said the USS Iwo Jima has docked in St. Thomas USVI this morning for R&R, that's rest and recreation, and sent a vid and an article on X.
Interesting. In the Virgin Islands, you say? Oh, interesting. I thank you for the support and sharing that with us. And I gotta say, the U.S. Virgin Islands is a very interesting place. Did y'all know that let's see, death by execution by hanging is still the law in the U.S. Virgin Islands? Did y'all know that?
Are you for real?
I think I am for real. Last I heard, the hanging was still legal down there as a form of execution.
We'll see. Is hanging legal in Virgin Islands? Let's see here. Hanging is not a legal method of execution in either the U.S. Virgin Islands or the British Virgin Islands. The death penalty has been abolished in both territories.
What? Dude, I remember back. The last I heard of that, folks, was in like 6th grade, and I remember a grade school teacher saying that they went to the U.S. Virgin Islands and they saw a public hanging. I don't know if that was like legally sanctioned or what. Like,
I don't know what they saw. They
like,
saw something that wasn't supposed to be happening.
That's weird. Let me go pull it up. Was execution by hanging a thing in the Virgin Islands? Did they just BS that whole story? Because that's where I got that from. Let's see. Purchased, the Virgin Islands does not have a death penalty. The federal law still applies in the territory. So, let's see. Under U.S. rule, so, yeah, I don't know what the hell that teacher was talking about. I guess they lied about it because it appears that the death penalty was abolished in the Virgin Islands in like 1978, and they weren't that old. Like, you know, they were born in the 80s. So I guess they just came up with a story, or they apparently saw a street execution, like, or something. I don't know. But that's interesting. So apparently that was completely wrong. I'll eat my foot on that one. That was wrong. But anyways. Very interesting thing to share, and I do thank you for the support and sharing that the Iwo Jima is there currently. And so a huge thanks to you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Melody Myers, who puts in 10. And thank you very much, Melody, as well. They said, I watch Poland TV, and they say that allegedly the U.S. is not sending Tomahawks, plus Viktor Orban, Hungary, will not vote for Ukraine to get into the EU.
The whole Viktor Orban thing is actually true. But about the U.S. not sending Tomahawks, that's something that's on the table. So they may not be sending them now, but we're considering it heavily, and it looks like we're working in that direction right now. So I think they might be incorrect, at least on that regard. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we got a 10 from Silence, who said, this is exactly why I became disinterested in all things space. It's all theoretical. And if you want me to care again, show me a propulsion system that means it won't take 3,000 years to go 1 light year.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But I gotta say, a big thanks to you for the support. And honestly, on stuff like that, like with space, very interesting to learn about our solar system because it's within reach. Everything else beyond that, it's beyond my care. Like even what's in the galaxy, it doesn't matter to me. It's too far away to matter right now technologically. That's someone else's thing 1,000 years from now, if we're still around by then. And that won't be anything that can ever really be done in my life, at least. So that's why I don't really put too much of a care into it myself personally. But a big thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we also have another 10 from Nathan Ringerwall, and he said Carl Sagan once said, there are either lots of aliens or not. Either scenario is terrifying.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of true. Honestly, I don't find it terrifying. Like it's just one thing or the other. It's like we're on the planet. There's really no way for us to leave it or really come into contact with anyone else. So that's the position we're in, whether there was a lot of them or none. But still, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to BA Technologies, who puts in a 10 and said, I wear my LSA patches proudly.
Hey, and I love to hear that. And a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Penguins Amok, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Penguins, for that support. He said, I've been trying to ask this in the live chat for weeks. And also, by the way, just for some backstory here, somehow he got unable to chat in our live chat. I don't even know how that is, because I didn't personally do anything to your account. So I don't know what happened with that. But thankfully, he is back as of tonight. I guess it was a glitch. But he said, is it true that Migraine shot down a Russian cruise missile with a Maxim last month? I think he meant to say Ukraine. I think it autocorrected on him.
I didn't hear of that, me personally, but it is possible. We have seen a machine gun shoot down a cruise missile before, so it's not out of the question. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next. Also, sorry that you weren't able to chat. I don't know why that was the case, because I personally didn't remove you, and Matthew didn't either, so I don't know why that was the case or what happened with that. But still, a big thanks to you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Gisla Minar, who puts in a 5 and said, good evening, enforcers. And the enforcer, accompanied by Enforcer Matt, good evening, folks. And that's true. Good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt.
Hey, it is. It's the enforcers. It's the enforcer and the enforcer Matt. And together we make the enforcer show. Hey! And I gotta say, a big thanks to you so much for supporting being here and enjoying it. Thanks to these folks like you who help us to make this thing possible and keep it running. So a massive thanks to you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I'm seeing some in the chat say that according to some sources, apparently the military is still getting paid. I'll be honest with you, I thought that during a government shutdown, they didn't get paid. It got accrued into their accounts, and then they got paid after the government reopened. So I know some services keep going. Like there's some things like, for example, disability and things like that will continue to get paid out in some form or another during a shutdown, but it has to be allocated for that, because the whole thing with the government shutdown is they've run out of money. They did not pass a new budget or something. I forgot what the exact name for it, but they've essentially run out of money to run the government. That's why they had to shut it down, because they have run out of money. So I'm not sure how they're paying the military. That's a new one on me. I think before, in the last shutdowns, the military wasn't getting paid. So I don't know at this point what the truth is. But Enforcer, what say you?
I wouldn't know what the truth is either. Up, down, left, right, front, and center. I have no clue. I really have no clue. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Sundown, who puts in a 5. And they said, Mr. Enforcer and Mr. Enforcer Matt, we deeply appreciate your dedication in the Leash Spring Army.
And I thank you so much for your appreciation of the Lee Spring Army and what we do to keep it running. So a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that it's dressed up well. And we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I'm seeing some servicemen in the live chat that are claiming that they are not getting paid, and then some people are saying they are getting paid. So I'm not sure at this point what the truth is. I'm not sure if anybody knows what is happening with the military pay. I can tell you this though: it looks horrible from a politics perspective for the military not to be getting paid. It looks awful. So I'm sure if they could find a way to pay the military, I'm sure they would love to. So maybe it's possible. We'll have to find out though. But moving into our next one here, this one goes to Robert Krogan, who puts in a 5. He said, "Not much, but have a snack on me."
Hey, we will have a snack on you, and I gotta thank you massively for the support and the kind words and helping us to keep this thing running, so that way we can be here every night and snack a little bit here and there. Honestly, folks, I'm getting hungry enough that I'm gonna have to have a snack once I get off air. I'm gonna have a little bit of that enchilada. Man, that thing was delicious. Honestly, that was good. That was real good. But beyond that, I'd also have to say a big thanks to you so much for helping this channel to keep on running as well. And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Robert Krogan, who puts in a 5, and he said, "A coffee more expensive than this, but hope it helps."
And I thank you so much for supporting every bit of support that folks give to this channel. It helps greatly. And so a humongous thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Kachulian343, who puts in a 5, actually 2 of them in a row. And his first one said, "They were a democracy before restoring it to the one the people wanted would net us a lot of good and make us liberators."
Possibly so. I mean, maybe. I mean, it's not out of the question. But a big thanks to you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
Also, Lord Cog said, "Thank you for not taking a meal break. Honestly, we don't do meal breaks. We starve. Like, if we're on air, we're starving. And right now, I am starving. I'm literally boiling. So hungry right now. I could go for another piece of that enchilada. And if y'all haven't had it, I'm not like trying to plug Costco shamelessly here. I'm not a Costco guy or anything like that. Although I do have a Costco membership. I have the card and everything. But that enchilada they got there in the back, that is a good enchilada. Like, ask them for the enchilada in the back. You'll know what I'm talking about. It's back there in the little freezer thing, back there near the
That
chicken
sounds like
they
some
got
sort
in
of
the-
illicit criminal thing. The enchilada in the back. Like, go to the back.
I mean, like in
ask
the back
for
of the store.
enchilada.
I mean, like, back there in the little like open freezer thing, like
Yeah.
in the prepared food section. That's what I'm trying to say. It's in the prepared food section in the back of the store. But it's not like in the shed in the back or something like that. It's like in the freezer.
Bro, the way you explain that, though, it sounded like some sort of a mafia operation. You're like, listen, go to the Costco, go to the back of the store, ask for enchilada. Don't know what you mean. Man, sound like some sort of real outfit sort of behavior right there. I was like, bro, hold up. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, they can't say this. Bro, they're going to be thinking we're
You got
running
the
it
whole
undercover.
enchilada in the back of the store. Go out back and you got the enchilada out there. You got to ask for the right guy. Make sure you ask for Tony, okay? Make sure you ask for Tony. And don't start divulging details until you know you're talking to Tony, okay?
All right, listen. All right? Listen to me and listen to me carefully, all right? You need to go down to the Costco on 9th and Broadway, all right? You go into the back of the store, you ask for Vinny. You sit there and tell Vinny, I'm here for the enchilada. He'll know what you mean. He'll take you into the back, and he'll give you the whole enchilada. You understand me?
Whoa, that sounds kind of wild. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, yo, hold up.
Hey,
yo, what? Oh, my God. I mean, listen, that's
You're gonna take them to the back and give them the enchilada.
Give them the whole enchilada. I mean, like the whole thing, the whole 9 yards. I mean, whoa. Like, listen, though, Matthew. Listen, that's none of your business. As long as he's earning, all right. Like, that's it. As long as he's earning.
No. I don't
Man,
care how much he's earning. That ain't flying.
Listen. As long as he's passing some up to the top, we don't get involved in this shit. Like, we don't get involved in this. All right. But anyways. Man, he never had the makings of a varsity athlete. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that. But anyways, oh my goodness. We're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Kachulian yet again, who puts in a 5. And they said, "Do you think the cartels will start poisoning the drugs that they smuggle to America to deliberately cause harm?"
Oh, no, because generally poison drugs, although they're dealing with the fentanyl stuff, poisoning all the drugs to kill off a whole bunch of people, it doesn't do them good for business because they start drawing up their consumer base pretty quickly at that point. So I hope that addresses that the best I can. I would doubt that they would start to intentionally poison things that are not fentanyl laced already. But that's what it is. But still, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Interstate Chef, who puts in a 5 and said, "I actually made one of my cooking videos in the Yukon Territory on the side of the road. It's a beautiful area in LSA."
The Yukon Territory, it sure as hell is a beautiful place. I mean, look at these pictures that come out of the Yukon. I mean, that's just gorgeous right there. I mean, look at this.
I like it when they go mining for gold up here.
Boy, there's gold up in the Yukon country. Honestly, man, while Yukon is great, I'll kill for a Klondike bar. Let me clarify. Let me clarify. But beyond that, the Yukon Territory is a really cool looking place. I would love to go to the Yukon Territories one day, or the Northwest Territories too, and take a look around in those places. Because I mean, the pictures that come out of here, I mean, they're truly unreal looking. Really, honestly, the whole west coast of the United States, really the whole west coast of North America, is a really scenic and beautiful sort of a place. Like even the California valleys, like over here, near Bitterwater and stuff, those are really pretty. Like, let me see if I can drop y'all down and show y'all what it would kind of look like through here. Like this. I mean, this doesn't really get the point across. Also, this road looks like shit. But I need to find y'all a good picture of that spot. Maybe this is it. Yeah, this is it. Oh, look, that's the thing they have at GTA, man. You know, The Rock, you know, like you go land on the helicopter, you know, you get to beating people's asses.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I mean? But wow, this place is really nice. We actually rode through a place close to this on the train on the Coast Starlight. But it's a beautiful place, really. You know, like the whole West Coast, it's gorgeous. The East Coast has its own thing going, but because we kind of grew up here and we're used to this sort of a place, it doesn't really look that crazy. You know, like this is fairly normal for where we're around or where we're from. So you get really used to this sort of a scenery. But what's out on the West Coast, it's really impressive. Like the Teton National Park, places like this. I mean, this is the Alps pretty much. It's the same height of the mountains and everything. So it has a very similar sort of a climate and an environment and sort of a look to it. And it's just really crazy because most of the West Coast of the United States kind of looks like that for the larger part. But anyways, I hope that does address it the best I can. A huge thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to the original who puts in a 5. And he said, Enforcer Matt, why would they want a drone and something and also take out a rubber raft and motorcycles?
They want to take him out because that's a brigade level element, but it's a company conducting the actions, and they're trying to stop that other company from building up enough arms, supplies, and manpower to be able to attack them and push them off the line. So that's why they're hitting the rubber boats, the ATVs, the dirt bikes, and the guys for the larger part. So I hope that does address that well. And also, I just saw the hiking nut say, check out Yeso, New Mexico. And you know, for some reason, that is interesting me. So let's go check out Yeso, New Mexico. Yeso, New Mexico. Where in the world is this? This is just now out of Albuquerque. I don't know. I don't know where this is. It's an abandoned city. Huh. And it looks like it was abandoned a while ago. A lot of these signs look like they're from the 50s or the 60s. Huh, interesting. It's like a modern ghost town.
Rest stop, air something.
Air conditioning.
They got ice cubes here. They got wrappers.
Man, this is this was back in the 50s. Because air conditioning was a huge selling point back then in like motels and stuff like that. So yeah, that's wild. I thought it was gonna be like a place of natural beauty. That's just a little abandoned town out there. And it's crazy because there's nothing here, yet it's one of the few settlements out here, and it still is on Google Maps, although it looks to be completely abandoned. Let me go show y'all the Santa Fe National Forest. This is actually pretty crazy to think it's in New Mexico. You would think this is like in Colorado or Wyoming, but crazily enough, this is out in North New Mexico, and it doesn't even look like it belongs in this area, really.
Yeah, honestly, it really doesn't.
Man, I would, me personally, I'm going to have to start taking some vacations, folks, here and there over the years to go see these places. They're not going to be that far from Salt Lake at this point, so it would be like a less than an hour flight and then get a rental car. But I mean, so much of it is just so beautiful out here in the West. Really, America is a beautiful country when you look around it. It's got everything that you could ever imagine. The desert, pretty much tropical rainforest nearly down in Florida, the deciduous forests, kind of a rainforest in a sense, the Great Plains, the mountains, different kinds of mountains, any mountain that you would want, it's in America somewhere. And eventually we'll have to travel around and see it all someday because it's cool. It's really cool. And one day I also want to see the Great Lakes, the oceans inside of the continent for the large part. That would be wild to see too. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, by the way, I just want to address this real quick, but I feel bad for not reading it off. Kachulian did put in one more super chat, by the way. It was one $5 super chat before the first two we read off. Sadly, Kachulian, I can't read that one. That's why I skipped it, because it has a word in there that YouTube's probably not going to like. And I have to be careful with that, because if we say something on air that YouTube doesn't like, they could give us a community guideline strike. So we got to be very careful with that, and that's why I had to skip over it. But I would read it off otherwise, just to let you know that. But also, big thank you to the support once again. And moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Interstate Chef, and he puts in another 5 and said, "You guys, man, and LSA, show the enforcers some love and type ME in the chat if y'all like the sense of humor the enforcers give."
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and the kind words. I'd always love to know that people enjoy our sense of humor, because there's always detractors. There's always people who tell us that they don't like our humor, and they want to let us know. But there's also a lot of people who really do enjoy it. And I'd have to assume that a lot of people must be enjoying it, because even tonight, which is one of the smallest nights that we've had recently, there were still 15,000 people here live, and 104,000 people have watched so far. So it can't be too bad, because there's apparently a lot of people like to stick around and hear it from time to time. But still, a huge thanks to you so much for the support and the kind words, and we always love to know that people enjoy what we're doing and enjoy our sense of humor. It makes us very happy. But a massive thanks to you so much once again. And also, folks, I was just thinking while we're going through this segment, I'll just pop through some of the national parks in America and just click through the pictures and show them off, because they are all so pretty in their own ways. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Madison music teacher, puts in a 5. And they said, "From your neighbor up in Madison, Alabama, what do you think about the Space Force coming to Huntsville? And what do you think it'll do for the country?"
It's not really going to do anything. It's more symbolic than anything moving a headquarters. Like, the command staff is wildly small, so it really doesn't change the operations of the Space Force. It just changes where the top command or the top brass is based out of. Because right now, they're in Colorado Springs at Peterson Space Force Base, right in this building. This is the U.S. Space Command Operations Building. This is the U.S. Northcom headquarters, which commands all U.S. forces in Northcom, which is the United States and Central America. And then right over here is U.S. Army Space and Missile Defense Command, which is kind of a part of the Space Force. So it really doesn't change anything, because this one building is all that's moving, and its staff is moving to Huntsville, and that's about it. So it doesn't really change much of anything at all. If anything, it actually costs money to move them. So if there's any impact, there's an impact of probably tens of millions having to be spent to find these people housing and also set them up in a new building. So with that, I hope that I addressed it the best I can. A big thanks to you once again for support and helping this channel to keep running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Boy, who puts in a 5. And he said, "Are aliens disabling our nukes during drills, as reported by Soviets and U.S. Cold War fighters, and aren't they relevant if so?" Honestly, I don't know how to explain that. That's one thing there that the military has never been able to explain properly. There have been very credible reports from military officials in the past and also in the present, saying that objects will hover over nuclear silos, and then all of a sudden the nuclear missiles themselves will be deactivated or temporarily inoperative. And that's not like a myth. That's something that's actually been documented before. So nobody knows what causes that. They do know that there are sometimes objects that are unidentified around the silo, but that doesn't necessarily mean aliens. It could be something that's domestic, maybe within the country they're testing. It could be an enemy that's testing something. We don't know. But many countries have reported that. So it's not unique to the United States. It's happened elsewhere too. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would generally have to say I wouldn't know. It's a weird phenomenon. Maybe it's just something to do with a lack of maintenance on the missile, perhaps. I don't really know, but it still is.
I don't know about that. Those are well-maintained missiles in the United States.
Oh, I don't know, man. I mean, maybe they just skip the maintenance days. I don't know, deferred maintenance. It's a thing. But in the meantime, folks, I will say something that's a little bit more literal. Matthew, do you see this right here, the Gila National Forest?
Yes.
Matthew, there's actually a monster that lives here in this national forest. Did you know?
Gila monster.
Yeah, the Gila monster. Do you know what it looks like?
Yeah, it's like a big lizard.
Yeah, it's like a big orange, blackish looking lizard. But I was just thinking about that. I clicked on this one. I was like, oh, the Gila monster. I was like, that would be a cool thing to pull up. So yeah, there it is, the Gila monster.
Yeah, these things right here are something. But you know what's really crazy are those things, those Komodo dragons over in Asia. Those are wild. Like the bigger version of this thing right here. Like those things are massive, like a dinosaur looking creature.
I don't like these at all.
No, I don't like that at all. I remember my earliest recollection of these things right here is Komodo dragons. Is that episode off of Johnny Quest where that maniac was like had him on the leash and stuff like that, and had him chasing after that dude on Johnny Quest. You know what I'm talking about? He had him on the leash.
Yeah, I think so. And it was like, it's like
yeah, it's like that sumo wrestler with like or not Gila monster, but Komodo dragons on the leash. There's one right there. Look at that, going after the elk or whatever that is.
This one's got a GoPro on.
Oh, look at that. He's a social media influencer.
Hey, yo, what's up, guys? Play 5 supers in the chat. Like, man, it's like, man, that thing is gonna beat the brakes off that antelope right there for sure. Like, it's going for it. It's gonna get him. I had to include it, and that was the one time I could right there on that spot. But honestly, the Komodos are scary. You know, I actually think if I'm not mistaken, Komodos end up killing their prey a lot like a alligator or a crocodile will by clamping onto them and then just spinning in circles until they rip something off, if I'm not mistaken. Hello? Oh. What the hell? Y'all folks, the Discord call. What in the world is going on? What is going on here? Hello? Hello? Central Control. This is Central Control. Oh? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Better now. I don't know what happened with that. Like, it just totally went out. Like, Discord showed no connection at all on my end. So
Yeah,
I don't know what was up with
it
that.
did that to me too. I was like, what the world? But beyond that, I don't know if you heard what I last said, but I said I think the Komodos end up killing their prey a lot like an alligator or a crocodile do. They clamp down and then they just start spinning until they rip something off.
No, these things are poisonous. Like, if they bite something. Yeah, also, let's see. Old Warrior said, he said they're poisonous. They bite and wait. That's what they do. These things have poisonous saliva. And the moment that saliva gets in your bloodstream, you're cooked.
You know what's crazy is that human saliva is actually poisonous as well.
That's why you shouldn't bite anybody.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is that if you bite someone, folks, just with your saliva alone getting into a wound, if you bite someone else, that wound will get infected because of the bacteria in your saliva, and it can cause an infection that's fatal. So technically, while we don't like excrete a poison in our saliva, the bacteria alone that exists there can be fatal if left uncleaned or untreated. Really interesting sort of a thing with that. Honestly, that's not really that interesting. I mean, hell, you could get cut on a rock and end up dying from an infection, you know, so that's not really that crazy, but still kind of interesting to think about. Beyond that, though, that's one hell of a scary animal. Also, it's kind of scary that this guy just grabbed it by the tail. He's like, "Look at this creature!" Like it's like, it's like
Honestly, that thing's shocked. It's like, who the hell's got the balls to grab me by the tail like that? It's like, who the hell is this behind the thing? Is this like Steve Irwin and the Ghost coming back or something like that?
This thing's about to show up at the Disney trial and say, "He did it to me too." Like it's like, oh no! But man, honestly, the crazy sort of a deal here with the Komodos. But let's see here. Also, it's kind of scary that they hang out in trees.
Oh dang! I didn't know they could climb trees. I thought they were like pretty heavy. I didn't know they could climb up there and be like supported by a branch.
Yeah, you know, it's really crazy, man. It's kind of like how snakes climb trees. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but snakes can actually climb trees, folks. I didn't know that until we saw a black racer up in a tree back in our hometown, and it had gotten way up there. And so I think we tried to get it down by hitting it with a stick, and that thing took off when it fell out of the tree. I mean, that thing was going like 1,000,000 miles an hour. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. Interesting little side note there about the Gila monster from the Gila National Forest. And also, look, it's in Native American inscriptions and carvings on the rock. And that is a Gila monster right there on the rock.
Yeah, really. That is. Also, by the way, people are saying Steve Irwin's an idiot. No, Steve Irwin wasn't an idiot.
Steve
He just had a
Irwin was
bad
no
run-in with
idiot.
that. He's had a bad run-in with that stingray. Like, I did get a little bit. He obviously got careless at that point because playing around with a stingray is a bad idea. One barb from that and you're finished, and that's what took him out. So no, he was. I think he got too comfortable with the animals. Like, he loved animals almost to a fault, and he trusted the animals weren't going to hurt him. And then one finally did, and it unfortunately made him pass away.
Yeah, I would say that Steve Irwin was no idiot, though. The guy was passionate for wildlife, and I respect him greatly for that. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Philip Harrison, who puts in a 5. He said, "Let's hope here's intelligent life out there, because there's a crap all happening down here on Earth." Eric as idol.
That's a pretty good take. Funny one, I'd say. But there's a lot of smart people down here. There's a lot of smart people, you know. You just got to look around to find them, you know. And sometimes they're hiding in crazy places, like Baghdad, Arizona. That's a shocker. But beyond that, a big thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Interstate Chef once again, who puts in a 5. He said, "Take a look at the mini glacier in Glacier National Park. One of my favorite and things."
Let's see. Glacier National Park. Let's go look at
And if you're
that.
British, it's a glacier.
It's a glacier. That sounds high class. Like glacier water. I want glacier water. But let's see. Oh,
feed my pigeons fizzy water.
there's the glacier. There it is right here.
I'll only feed my pigeons glacier water.
Man, listen, I don't feed my pigeons nothing unless if I'm feeding them Fiji water or glacier water or something. It's got to be nice, you know. It's got to be high end. Because if you're feeding my pigeons anything less than Fiji water, you're a rat piece of shit. Oh, come on, mate. No, F you, man. If you don't like what I'm saying, turn off your station. Man, the Glacier National Park is really pretty. Like, really, really pretty. You know, I want to go to all these places, folks. You know, it's even crazier, folks, to think that when trappers came out here, because trappers were some of the first Americans to travel through these places, they would talk about what it looks like out here. And obviously a lot of people had no clue. And there was no way to take photographs, at least during the earlier Romanticist period. So everybody had no idea. So these trappers would come back and be like, yo, there's like these freaking giant mountains and there's like water shooting out of the ground. And people thought these trappers were just making up shit. Like, I'm not even kidding. Everyone thought that they were lying. And so everyone would be like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, a lot of people believed the Salt Lake was a myth. Like, you know, people like these trappers would come back from their trips into the wild to, you know, catch furs and pelts and on, and they would come back and they would go, there's this giant ocean in the middle of America, and they'd be like, you're an idiot. And then eventually Sam Ally and the Mormons came out here and they actually found it for real, and then they settled Salt Lake City. But still wild stuff. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Silence, who puts in a 10. And Silence said, the dragon's venom stops the prey from being able to form blood clots, and it then follows it for days while the prey gets weaker and weaker. And when it can no longer move, it rips it to pieces while it's still alive.
Man, that's wild. Honestly, kind of hardcore. But still, big thanks to you for the support. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Christian, who puts in a 5. He said, don't we have proof of aliens already? I mean, look at Mr. Zuckerberg. Damn. He said, learning how to become a human, watching from a Samsung watch.
No,
Watching from your watch. Wait a minute, how's that possible?
Listen, Zuckerberg isn't an alien anymore. He got the Chat Alpha update or whatever the hell it is. He doesn't look like that anymore. He looks like this. Come on, everyone. I mean, he's definitely not an alien anymore.
I will say, like, the upgrade is a little bit on the cringy side, but it's way better than this version right here. Like, this was version 1.0. Like, listen here. Like, this guy, like, it's like, listen, I don't get out in the sun a whole bunch. I'll be honest with you. I work at the computer all day long doing research, but I wasn't this pale. I mean, this guy right here was so pale, and then he suddenly got like a tan going on right here. It's like, how did he just get that overnight?
And also, you know what's funny though is that one woman, forgot her name. She was the one who did like the blood scandal thing. You know the one I'm talking about, Matthew, with like the miracle
so.
system, whatever. She based her whole persona off of him. So she was like, how in the world did she got a turtleneck and then she'd go out there, my system is revolutionizing the world. You know, and do that whole thing with a deep voice and all. But she
I
based
thought
it
he was
off
trying to
of-
imitate Jobs.
She was kind of trying to imitate him, but also Zuckerberg at the same time. It was kind of like a blend of the two.
Interesting. Yeah.
Uh,
Everybody wants to imitate Steve Jobs because he was like the innovator of that like minimalist marketing scheme that goes on with that. Honestly, it's effective. It gets me every single time. I'll be honest with you because I love like that minimalist looking design and stuff like that. But everybody wants to wear the black T-shirt, the jeans and stuff like that. That's like the stereotypical like Silicon Valley like startup founder now is that type of thing. I'm not gonna lie though, Zuck was unsettling when he looked like this. Like he was really unsettling.
Honestly, he really did look inhuman. Like the hair looked fake for some reason. It's like a mat that they just like glued down. Really, really weird looking, you know. But anyways, with that, we're on to the next one.
And our next one here goes to Blizath, who puts in a 3. And thank you very much, Blizath, for that support right there. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And we also have a 2 from LSA Sergeant Figment. And he said, LSA, hit that like button. That's an order.
Hey, and hit that like button, folks. That is an order from none other than LSA Sergeant Figment. And a big thanks to you once again for the support and help with this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and help us to make it a reality. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Pat Powell, who puts in a 2. And they said, brag on your fabulous educated selves. Oh, no,
No,
I wouldn't do that. That's a
no.
narcissistic of us. But thank you very much, Pat, for the kind words. We do appreciate it. And we also have a 2 from Dupper Bob and D. Stevenson, who each put in a 2. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And we also have a 2 from Christopher, who puts in a 2. He said, at this point, let's see here. I don't know. I don't know if I can read that one off right there. That sounds a little bit rough if I know what you're referring to with that one. But thanks, Christopher, for that support. We also have a 2 from Bruce Lee, who said, "My war marmot is ready to go, and I had this pick a year. It seems now."
And I got to thank you for support. I got to say, you've had that Marmot picture for one hell of a time, but we do appreciate nonetheless. It keeps the channel legend alive in a sense. So a massive thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that so well, at least the best I can. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Bruce Lee, who puts in a 2. He said, "The marmot upgraded to Dragonfly for recon and LSA."
You know, maybe. I mean, that's not out of the question, really. But I do thank you massively for the support and help this channel to keep rolling. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And this one goes to Nathan Schneider, who puts in a 2. He said, "Have you ever heard of the Greta Treaty?" Remember Greta Thunberg?
She's complaining right now that the beds aren't soft enough in Israeli prison. It's like, wow, that's shocking. I can't believe the conditions aren't perfect in a prison. You know, it's like a little wild. But I haven't heard about that, me personally. I would have to declare ignorance. But I do thank you for the support, helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And with that, folks, it is now time to jump into our live chat questions, including our Morse code decoders. And tonight we had all the Morse code decoders. We had Paul Schultz, Kevin J, Mason Miami, Joni Dog, Nora Pritchett, Erba Garbo, Her Royal Fluffiness, Kush, Copioteryx, and Sire. They said the Morse says, if you take a step back from something and take another look at it, it will look smaller. LTLSA.
Deep thoughts for the enforcer, folks. but
What's that referencing?
it literally means like if you're standing up at something and you take a step back from it, it's going to look a little bit smaller. Like, you know, like you're taking a step back, so perspective wise, it's taking up less of your field of view. It looks a little smaller. Like, you know what I
Can't
mean?
use that in a sentence.
I was looking at a car. I took a step back and it ended up looking a little bit smaller.
Oh, I didn't know you meant it that literally. That makes sense.
Yeah, it was literal. Like, it was not like philosophical. It was literal. It was supposed to be the joke that it was that literal. Like, that was the punchline. But
Man, honestly, I was hitting kind of like that line that what's his face tried to do. What's his name? The governor of California, the former governor, the bodybuilder guy, Arnold. Yeah, Arnold. That's what I'm thinking about. Arnold went on like a breakfast show and he was like, I've learned the secret to success. You have to first earn. They always say it's hardest to earn your first million, so just jump to the second million. Everybody went dead silent. Nobody said anything. And he was like, "Come on, that's supposed to be funny." He's like, and then everybody started laughing. He was like, they thought he was about to drop some like hardcore philosophical knowledge on him, but he was just joking.
man, honestly, man, like that Morse code right there is supposed to be like the same equivalent of the floor is made of floor, or every 60 seconds in Africa a minute passes. It was supposed to be something like on that line, and they were like, what does it mean? And I was like, it means what it means, man. It's like it's right there. But still, I hope that does address that the best that we can, at least in my opinion. And with that, folks, it's time for us to start moving on into the live chats. Due to time constraints, folks, we're unfortunately only going to be able to get about 3 live chats, and then we will have to round out the stream for the night. But also, folks, I got to tell y'all, never fall into one of these. If you go to Yellowstone, never fall in one of these. The water is literally boiling. It will boil you alive. I don't think many people have ever survived falling in one of these. So, don't do that. It's not a good idea. Also, that just looks kind of like scary, really, when you really look at that.
Hey, if the water is changing colors as you go down, something's not right.
Yeah, something's wrong. Something's real wrong. But it is really cool. And also, Yellowstone is really pretty. But honestly, I feel like Yellowstone's overrated, because if you go over to a place like Bighorn National Forest, I mean, that's what it looks like. That's really beautiful too. America is just a beautiful country, folks. All right, let's just get that across. America is a gorgeous country with boundless amounts of natural beauty and natural wonders. And so with that, it's time for us to get to the third to last. Actually, we have one more super chat before we get to the third to last question of the night.
And also, thank you very much, Gold, too, for that $2 support. And we do appreciate that very, very much. And sadly, we can't shout out the stock, but we do see what you said right there. But thank you very much for that support. We also are moving on right into our live chat questions. And this one goes to Kells. Excuse me, goodness, I don't know what's got me coughing. But Kells said, why can't the CIA or the DEA take care of the drug boats? And also, by the way, they don't have a military force like that. Like the CIA and the intelligence agencies, they have paramilitary groups, but they're used usually for like specialized operations of intel gathering and also sometimes assassinations and things like that. The CIA does have a group for that, but they don't have like a military force, as in like like being able to launch missiles and stuff like that. It's not really in their purview, so that's probably why they haven't dealt with it. But Enforcer, what say you?
Also, you don't have forces like that deal with terrorists often, unless they're taking them out as well. So then at that point, it generally falls to the military. Because you don't really hear about, the FBI going in and trying to arrest the leader of Al Qaeda. You heard about SEAL Team 6 going in and blasting Osama bin Laden in the middle of his compound, taking a picture with him, and then dumping him off of a carrier. So, it's it's kind of a different ballpark once something is designated as a terrorist organization. And also, by the way, folks, there is a major difference between those of foreign terrorist organizations and domestic terrorist organizations. Domestic terrorist organizations are treated with white gloves. They are arrested. They are dealt with the domestic law enforcement agencies. They go through trials, so on and so forth. Foreign terroristic agencies, they get an entirely different sort of a treatment, and it's not nice. It's the kind of treatment you're seeing them get right now. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we are on to the third to last question of the night.
All right, so this one goes to Joe Leslie, who said, what happened with all those various U.S. commanders being recalled to the big meeting in the United States?
They got called back. Bada bing, bada boom. They had like a talk. It didn't really turn into anything at all in any way. It was kind of a little waste of a time, a little stupid, and then everyone went home. So it really didn't turn into anything, to be entirely honest, and it was a waste of time for everyone involved. I know some people disagree with that to some extent, but to me it seems like a complete waste of time. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And also, Mandy, that looks a lot like a picture that you took.
Yeah, it kind of does. It looks like the top of the Utah mountain.
And what the hell is
from
this?
the Wasatch. That's from the Wasatch State Park. That is the same range.
Yeah, look at that. Wow, the fall colors are beautiful out here.
I think that might be the spot I was actually standing. The one you just looked at.
I was about to say, I was like, this looks identical, honestly. Like the lake, the mountain range.
Yeah, that is the
background.
spot. That is the spot because there's the road right over there. Yeah, I was literally parked right here in the rental car, and I took a picture, literally facing right out that direction. You're looking out toward Park City, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, that does look like Park City. I've never seen Park City, so I don't know. But I gotta say, the fall colors out here are gorgeous, folks. In the South, we kind of have like this weird thing where it like almost turns into fall, and then it gets hot enough that it psychs the trees out, and the thing it's not going to turn into fall, and then it just goes dead cold, and then all the leaves fall off instantly. There's like hardly any fall colors down here anymore. Some people say that it used to be like that, where we used to have fall colors. Nowadays, that rarely ever happens well. So these pictures are just crazy. I'm like, wow, it's like real fall colors, like you hear about. Oh, a railroad. Soldier Holla. There's a train station here. So wait a minute, hold up. Is there train access there? So this is where it is. Is there a train station here? Can you do you connect to this from like a railroad somewhere? I'm really interested in that. I'll have to look into that off air. But beyond that, I think we are on to the final question of the night, if I'm not mistaken. So with that, we are on to the final question of the night. Who is the lucky last person to put in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Value Radar, who said, how likely is it that the Venezuelans will kick off a popular uprising against the Maduro regime if the USA fully invaded the country, considering that Maduro destroyed the economy and crushed the mass protest?
I would say that the chances of opposition against a U.S. invasion would be wildly low, and I'd have a feeling that there would be a lot of collaborators or sympathizers with the U.S. occupation if it was conducted. Still not a great idea to do it right now, but I generally think that it wouldn't go insanely poorly. As long as we played our cards incredibly well and we didn't half-ass it, everything would pretty much turn out okay. But we'd still be tying up a lot of manpower and resources during a very critical hour in the world that we shouldn't be tying up right now and should tie up later. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. And with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream, folks. I gotta say a huge thanks to you all so much once again for watching tonight. Both Enforcer Matt and me are always honored to be able to run this show for each and every single one of y'all. And while tonight's stream was a little bit smaller, narco boats getting hit near Venezuela isn't really the biggest news these days. It's kind of happened normally. We still did get 14.4 thousand people here live tonight, 14.5 actually, and also 107,000 people have watched this stream before it ended. We're entirely honored and greatly appreciative to know that each and every single one of y'all have enjoyed the stream so much, and if y'all have, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment, and also make sure to join us tomorrow for the next 24 hours of news from around the world. And so with that, we will see you all then. So with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Also, by the way, if there is a short war video to be made tomorrow, I'll be the one making it. But good night, good luck, take care, stay safe. Slava Ukraini, Ram Slava, long live the Republic, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, thank you all for joining us once again tonight and all 107,000 people that were here by the end of the stream. And we will see you all tomorrow night on the next stream on Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern, and maybe a short war video tomorrow as well. But right now, it looks like the news is really, really slow to come out midday again. It's gotten back to that point. So give it some time. Something's bound to brew up, and we'll have those short war videos back once again. But in the meantime, folks, Slava Ukraine, Hiram Slava, get some rest, and good night.